I'll go back to the office.
Artistic art.
Oh.
They are testing audio for YouTube.
You tell us when, Joy. Okay. All right, welcome everyone. Appreciate you being here today. Welcome commissioners. Thank you for all being here. And our executive director, White, and our attorney, Aaron, thank you so much. And all of you for being here. We appreciate it very much. We'll go ahead and get started. We have first on the agenda is the commission work. We have the meeting minutes for June 12th and August 5th. Is there any corrections or additions or a motion for them?
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the minutes as presented from June 12th and the special meeting from August 5th.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
And any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you. Now we have, the next on our agenda is for public comment. Mr. Jared, is there anybody signed up there? No. Okay. We have received some public comment through email that deal with a couple of items on the agenda, so maybe we'll reference those when we get to that point, if that's okay. Okay, we'll move ahead then with the director's report. Mr. White, we appreciate all you've been. You're busy anyway, but we made you really, really busy, so thank you.
No, it's been an honor to work with you all. Of course, we have great work to do today in identifying who the baton will be passed to support the continued work of the commission. To that end, I've been working with our human resources department to start addressing some of the open positions that we have, the many open positions that we have to work on the commission, and we hope to be opening those searches in partnership with the new director once that individual is appointed, and of course in partnership with the commission. So we have a lot of good work to do, and we'll be calling on the community to encourage applications so we can get some really quality support for our new director. We will need support both from a financial officer perspective and also program perspective. I'm really grateful to our team who's been working so hard and are relatively strapped to process the materials that we've received to date related to potential new applications and also getting us ready for today's meeting. So just a shout out to Jared and Joy, who have been working very, very hard to help us, and a shout out to my assistant, Lisa, who is here today helping to facilitate the meeting as well. In the board materials, you'll note behind the director's report, yes, but behind the director's report, I worked with our DAG to prepare some material that will hopefully help the Charter Commission to orient around the legislative intent attached to charter decisions and also the relevant provisions related to charter approvals. Just so you all have those at hand when we reach decisions later in this meeting. If you have any questions, of course, we can our attorney here to help support you in that regard, but hope that can be of value to you all. We do have our some information related to the increased charter support program for participants from cohort 1. Include Mountain Community, Blackfoot, and East Valley. We have a number of other participants who have been invited. I believe some of them we are waiting on board approval for their participation, but those who have been invited include Chief Tagi, Hayden Canyon, Monticello Montessori, and North Valley Academy. So I'm grateful again for the work of the State Department in partnership with the Charter Commission related to that work. Bingham Academy, as has otherwise been reported, has voted to close, and they're in the process of notifying families and students. We are working with the State Department of Education through our normal closure protocols, and we'll have an update with the commission as that process continues. So far, they've been working hand in hand with our office staff on rolling out that process. They were not able to meet enrollment projections, which had been a risk. We saw them for the notice of financial concern at the last meeting. We received a new charter application from Elevate CUNA, and we'll be in the process of starting to engage with them. And the new director, that will be, you know, a quick introduction to the processes of the board. When I step back to continue my work at the state board office, I do want to say that we'll be in a position to continue to offer support to the Charter Commission. And I've talked with my staff about that as well. We think the work that you're doing for public education is really, really critical. And that, of course, is an interest and the charge of the State Board of Education. And so we intend to continue to work in partnership with the commission to support your success. Any questions or concerns about anything that we've addressed here?
Just a thank you.
Thank you.
We really appreciate your leadership.
Thank you so much.
And if I could, Jennifer, just to make sure, so I have a comfort level, the budget for the commission, Charter Commission, you guys have got that, it'll go in on 1 September, there's no other work needed on that.
We are in the process of working with DFM about next steps related to all state budgets, and so we should have information later this week about, in fact, we have some preliminary information forthcoming that may impact what those budgets ultimately look like for all state agencies. We just don't have enough information yet. But otherwise, to the extent that those are been prepared in partnership with
And that's
the
my
state board.
The
Yes, sir.
preparation is ready.
Yes, sir.
Anything else? Okay, thank you, Director, appreciate it. Okay, next on our agenda is executive session. You have a motion to be able to go into the executive session.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we probably need to state the code if you would.
I move we go into executive session for the purpose of personnel.
Okay. Is that okay, Karen?
You might be stating pursuant to Idaho, it's right here in
It's
the.
on the-
Idaho 74.
Sorry, I'm supposed to read that.
Commissioner Henry.
The commission, the commission move into executive session pursuant to Idaho Code 74-206 sub A, sub 1 and B to consider hiring a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual agent within the respective qualities of individuals who are evaluated in order to fill a particular vacancy or need.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? We need to have a roll call. Okay. Director, could you do that roll call for us?
Yes, I can. Chairman Reed,
Yes.
Vice Chair Bear,
Yes.
Commissioner Kohler,
Yes.
Commissioner Hedrick,
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn,
Yes.
Commissioner Amador,
Aye.
Commissioner Paulos.
Yes.
Anyone?
Okay. Any opposed? Okay. Then we're gonna do that in the office or here.
Stay there.
Okay. If you'd all excuse us for a few minutes, thank you. Go. Okay, thank you, everyone for letting us have that executive session and stepping out for a moment. We'll go on, we have a consideration of amendment to performance certificate for Dan, Director White.
Yes. As provided in the preparation materials, project impact STEM seeks to amend the performance certificate to allow the school to change the boundaries of their primary attendance area. That primary attendance area was first identified in their March 2019 performance certificate as the boundaries of the Pima School District. It was subsequently amended 3 years ago to encompass a different area from Robinson Road to Eagle Road to Franklin Road, and eastward extension from Robinson Road to Cloverdale and to Amity and Lake Hazel. The current proposed boundaries will update the primary attendance area by moving boundaries west into the Nampa School District. The materials, we provided materials that articulate that new proposed boundary under tab 5, so we can review that. Based on our interactions and correspondence regarding this, we recommend amending, approving the amendment of the current performance certificate to performance at the primary attendance area identified in their request.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Fleming, do you have anything you'd like to share with us?
I'm going to answer any questions that you, Chairman, you or the commissioners have.
Okay. Any questions, commissioners? Okay, if not, thank you. We have a motion.
I'll make the motion to allow a project impact STEM Academy to change the boundaries of the school's primary attendance center.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Okay, very good. Consideration of charter authorizer transfer. Brett.
Yes. We received an application for transfer from Gem Prep Online. They seek to transfer from the White Pine School District to the Idaho Public Charter School Commission portfolio. Gem Prep Online has operated since 2006 and proposes to serve statewide virtual students in grades K through 12 using Canvas as a learning management system. They have an existing 12-year charter term and requested an enrollment cap of 1,000 with target enrollment of 574 students to allow for flexibility around enrollment. The application articulates the mission of preparing students for college through rigorous academics, data-driven academic instruction, and adaptive technology. They are currently exceeding all academic and financial measures, including as was recently reported regarding virtual performance of that school. So we have no concerns about approval of this application for transfer. Transfer authority would be effective July 1st. In our analysis of the petition, we did articulate just the idea that some additional detail about how asynchronous learners at risk of disengagement will be monitored and supported. But given the level of success that Gem Prep has continued to demonstrate, that was not a concern that we believe would give rise to some sort of condition on this approval. And they are here today to answer any questions and provide some more information about their program.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Bransford.
We've got a slide there, if we could utilize that, just spend a few minutes providing a brief overview.
That'd be great. I'll just have you introduce yourself.
My name is Jason Bransford. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Gem Innovation Schools. That's a network of Gem Prep schools that exist across the state.
I'm Heather McKenna, the principal of Gem Prep Online.
I'm Kyle Amos, our Federal Programs Director, and also oversee our high school for Gem Prep Online.
I'm Lori Wolf. I'm our Chief Academic Officer.
And I'm Brian Fletcher. I'm the CFO. Thank you, Commissioners. And our Chief Growth Officer is Josh Gunright in the back there. He doesn't like to sit up front. We mean He's there if I get stopped on growth questions. So what I'd like to do is provide a brief overview of Gen Prep Online as kind of a backdrop for this, and then we'd be happy to take any questions that commissioners may have. So we come here today, as I shared this about a year ago at this time, because I came to bring our Gen Prep NAMPA charter petition to the commission, because at the time we had all of our charters under the commission with the exception of 2 that were under districts. We've now taken care of NAMPA. We brought it under the commission as of July 1st, even though we did that about a year ago. That took effect July 1st of just about a month ago. And now we are seeking to do the same thing for Gen Prep Online. This action would bring all of our charters under the commission, which aligns our performance certificate accountability structure and allows us to all be working towards the same public accountability framework and goals. So that's really one of the key drivers as to why we're doing this. There's also the reality that when you have multiple authorizers, you try to maintain relationships with anybody who authorizes your schools. And having several different districts and the commission, you can imagine how much more complex that is, as opposed to when we have existing relationships at the commission. It makes a lot of sense for us to bring this charter under the commission. So with that, a brief overview. Gen Prep Online is a K-12 virtual school. Our focus is on a college preparatory education, which balances both academic rigor and joyful learning in those students' experience. We also focus on competencies. So when I talk about competencies, these are things like the ability to set and accomplish goals, the ability to manage and prioritize your time, the ability to work well with others, the ability to communicate effectively, both in writing and in the spoken word. So these are things I talk about when we talk about competencies. So this is something we focus on in all of our Gen Prep schools, including Gen Prep Online. And as was stated before, Gen Prep Online has over 20 years of experience in the educational world and Idaho. So we're often asked, what makes Gen Prep Online unique as compared to most of the other virtual schools that exist in our state? Here are some of those things, and I won't go into depth into these unless somebody wants me to, but one of the things that makes Gen Prep Online unique is that for each core subject we offer online live lessons every week for every student. So you can imagine if you're a 5th grade student, you've got four core classes, math, ELA, science, and social studies. You are attending 8 live lessons a week. Now they're recorded if you miss one, if you have to, but we really encourage students to be there, and the overwhelming majority of students do attend these live lessons. And they're one of the things that allows our teachers to move the needle significantly with our students to make sure that they are getting a high quality learning experience across the board, K through 12. We also have support around the state in our offices. Each of our Gen Prep physical locations has space dedicated to the online school. It's where our online staff work from, and it's where students and parents can come in when they need additional help or support. Whether it's getting up and running at the beginning of the school year or whether they have some struggles, they can come in and get face-to-face help and support. And everybody up here has done this as well. Every year we have students, and sometimes our seniors are the worst about this. Just right about the time it gets close to graduation, we'll get somebody who's a straight A student, they start to die a little bit, and they need to come in and get a little accountability and a little support to finish strong. Those are the things that in-person office spaces allow to happen in our office. We also have our well, it's kind of cut there on the screen, but our brick and mortar schools, the things that we offer there outside of the school day are also made available to our online students. Everything from our graduation ceremonies to our extracurricular activities to our field trips are made available to Gen Prep Online students around the state. We have a thing that we do called earned autonomy. You've heard me talk about that in the past. Students who are doing well, we try to grant them additional flexibility and freedom that they have access to. We focus on giving students associate's degrees by the time they leave high school. More about that in just a moment. We have a thing called learning societies. I'll also talk a little bit more about this in a moment, but these are in essence micro school-like programs that exist within Gen Prep Online. And our focus is on getting students to a debt-free degree. We believe that we have a debt crisis in America. In fact, if you piled up all the credit card debt in America on one side, and you piled up all the student loan debt on the other side, the student loan debt is taller than the credit card debt in America. This is the size of the problem we have, and so we're focused on getting students to the finish line with no debt. So Gen Prep Online has an impressive set of academic outcomes. The first of which that I'll talk about is in the class of 2025 that walked across the stage just a couple of months ago. 74% of those graduates finished high school and an associate's degree at the same time. Now, commissioners, I don't know any other school across this state, and there's very few across the nation, where 3/4 of the students are getting associate's degrees by the time they leave high school. These are really impressive results, and I'm super proud of the students and the staff who enable that to happen. If current trends stay true, in the class of 2026, that number will go up to 81%. So again, really proud of this up and coming senior class. Our graduation rates the last 2 years have been at 100%. Every year when the top 10 list is published about ISAT scores, Gen Prep Online shows up on at least a couple of those lists. In the most recent list, they showed up on both the ELA and Science top 10 list. And last school year, they were awarded the ESEA Distinguished School Award. So really proud of the work that's happening in Gen Prep Online. You can see here that in every subject that is tested, Gen Prep Online scores 25 to 30% higher proficiency rates on the ISAT than the state average. You can see here that on the IRI, the same holds true, that consistently Gen Prep Online students perform incredibly well in the K-3 assessment as compared to the state average. Now, these aggregate results that I talked about, they matter. But they matter because they represent what's happening in the lives of individual students. And I'd like to share 2 brief student stories that represent many good students and what they're doing in our school. So Boyd just graduated in the class of 2025. He lived in the Pocatello area. When he graduated high school, he left with 120 college credits under his belt, completed mostly through BYU Idaho. A month after he graduated high school, he then walked across the stage at BYU Idaho with his political science bachelor's degree. And in November, he'll begin serving as a missionary in Warsaw, Poland. Boyd and many students like him are why we do this work, because we have an excellent academic program, and when students access that program and use it fully, the sky is the limit, and Boyd is proving it. We have another student who graduated a year earlier named Violet. Violet walked across the stage a year earlier than Boyd. She started in her 9th grade year during COVID. Now, she came here only because of COVID, but once she got on that AA track, she stayed here. When she graduated Gen Prep Online in 2024, she left and went to UNLV with $44,000 in scholarships. Now she's 1 year away from graduating UNLV, and then she will begin medical school. Violet is another reason that we do this work, and students like her. There's so many students to be proud of in this state, and I hope we all recognize that. Now, what I have, we're going to try this out and hope that this works. If I can provide a brief verbal background, I've got about a 1.5-minute video here that provides a little look at our learning societies. So you've got several online schools in your portfolio of schools already. I think you've got a pretty good background understanding for what online schools are. But a few years ago, we decided to do something new and unique. It was during the COVID pandemic, and what we were finding was that people around the state were starting, sometimes they were called learning pods, sometimes they were called micro schools, and around the country, people were starting to do these, including in Idaho. And we were both excited by this trend because we thought that there could be some great potential there. And we were concerned by the trend because most of the learning pods and the micro schools around the country had terrible academic outcomes. So doing something unique really lacks a lot of value if you can't help students learn in that unique learning approach. And this is what tended to exist in the micro school world at the time. So we said, we know we've got an academic program that we think works well. We're learning from these micro schools around the country. What if we created a program within Gen Prep Online where students could come to a building, and at that building, they can access their online courses. They're still logging on, they're still getting those live lessons that we talked about, let's say 8 per week for the example that I used earlier. And then what if when they log off, they've got a certified teacher in the room to help them practice those skills, give them extra support, and assist them. Now, our online school, we tend to require parents to be at home for that school, which really the reality is not everybody can do that. But now in our learning societies, you don't have to have a full-time parent in the home to access these learning societies. So we today have 3 learning societies, and we've got just a little minute video that'll work here to just, I'll talk a little bit more on the video about this, but then you'll actually see and hear a little bit. So could we attempt to play the video? I don't know if I hit this. For years, we had families in smaller communities asking us if there's anything we could do to provide a Gen Prep education in their community. And these are often families who Gen Prep Online just wasn't going to work for by their own admission. So what we found is that over several years of kind of wrestling with this, we came up with a solution that said, maybe there's a version of this, 30 to 40 students, K through 12 in the smaller communities that we could do as a part of Gen Prep Online. And we call these learning societies.
So a learning society is a small group of children schooling together, just like you would in a home atmosphere, similar. We have to be more on schedule than like a regular house, and it's more organized.
To me, it's a lot like homeschool, except a bit better because I can do my work faster and it's a shorter day.
All the kids interact great. I don't have any problems with kids being too old or young for each other. They all just get along like brothers and sisters.
Well, I like a small group of people. My old school had a bunch of other people that was too crowded and loud.
When the teacher's talking to her class, she has another screen set up here, and she could see every one of her student screens. So she may be asking them to interact in a certain way, like drawing something to represent a math problem, and they're drawing it on their computer, and she's looking at all 20 kids' responses on her computer. So she's able to actually follow along quite closely.
It helps me concentrate when I'm doing my work, and I like how it's just peaceful, not everyone running around.
All right, commissioners, I hope that was helpful to hear a little bit from one of our teachers and from a couple of our students, a little bit of that experience and what that looks like in the society. So we hit this. For years, we had families in small. There we go. Our learning societies are wildly academically successful. You can see here, I've got two of them pulled up. In our Emmett Learning Society, 93% of our students K through 3 are reading on grade level, as compared to the local district where 63% are reading on grade level. So there's a 30% spread in reading proficiency in that learning society. In Payette, we've got 83% proficiency in the Payette Learning Society, and in the local school district, we've got a 58%. So we're looking at about a 25% spread here. Commissioners, this is transformation. Students reading proficiently when they're in grades K through 3 sets them up for success or can cripple them for the rest of their academic career and even beyond high school. This is so critical that we offer these opportunities to students, to as many students as we can across the state, if we can do it. That's why these learning societies exist. Our enrollment is trending upwards, but we are focused on quality over quantity in our enrollment, which is why we didn't ask for more of a cap. We certainly want to grow our enrollment, but we want to grow it with excellence. Our school is in a strong financial position. We have over 260 days of cash on hand. We have always been in good standing with our authorizer since day one, and we've always had clean audits for Gen Prep Online from day one. Now, commissioners, I need to ask you for some support on this. Gen Prep Online is one of the strongest schools in Idaho, not just the strongest online school, it's one of the strongest schools in Idaho. We came from a 12-year authorization with the local district. 12-year authorization saves us time and it saves your staff time. That's time your staff can spend supporting other schools who need extra help and support, and that's time we can spend helping students who need extra staff and support. So I recognize that the norm is for a 6-year authorization, but I would ask you to consider today a 12-year authorization for Gen Prep Online as part of your discussion today. So with that, I'd like to close with about another 1-minute video and hear from just a few more students in some of our learning societies, and then we'll pause for any questions. So could we try this last video? 30 to 40 students in one location, K through 12, almost like an extended family. So it's really a great opportunity in a smaller group to get the help and attention that a student needs to be wildly successful in their academic careers.
I love that we all have a similar goal in mind in our hearts for what we want our kids' lives to be like, not just scholastically, but as a well-rounded human, and I feel like she's getting the best of that.
Gen Prep is awesome.
Of course, we can close.
Yeah, what a
Commissioners, thank you for the opportunity to share a little bit about Gen Prep Online. We'd be happy to stand for any questions.
Any questions, please, Mr. Boyle.
Thank you, Chairman. I actually have a question for Heather, and this is just for my own edification. I was speaking with a grandparent of one of your students the other day, and he's a knothead, but talk to me about their senior project.
Their senior project?
Yeah, that's the one thing he asked me that I said Can't tell you what they have.
Yeah, so what they've done is they get to choose a career that seems interesting to them at this point, and they go and job shadow, and they have to come up with a research paper and a presentation, and have a certain amount of service hours with them. And then at the end of the semester, they present it to a group, and a lot of our staff, as well as admin are on there too, and board members join, to give that support as also feedback. But that's what we really want to make the real world connection of what it is and have them out in the real world before they go, and that's what their super projects are based around.
Thank you. And just very quickly on this young man, that's all he needs. All he has left is a senior project. Everything else is advanced opportunity, which is wonderful.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. All right, thank you. Appreciate the presentation. Okay, discussion, commissioners.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
So, the staff, one of the staff recommendations was a 6-year term. And Jason requested a 12. Where are we on that?
The statute for transfers is silent as to 6 or 12 years. So it looks like you can do what you want. If it's an initial charter, you have to do 6. You can't do 12, you have to do 6. And this would not be an initial charter, it would be a transfer.
The transfer, we can do either 6.
It's
or
silent,
12.
so it's assuming you can do either.
Chairman.
Please.
I think based on the track record of Gen Prep Online and Gen Prep in general, I don't think it's unreasonable to consider a 12-year term. This isn't their first rodeo. It's not our first rodeo.
The thoughts,
Mr. Chairman.
please.
Thank you. The 12-year versus 6-year, it's kind of a moving target at this point. We have discussed that in the past and tried to set criteria that involve there could be no needs improvement. Everything had to be accepted or above. Are we at that with Gen Prep Online?
Well, everything in the packet meets approved or meets standard.
Yeah, that's in terms of their action today. And I think what we're referencing is they could be needs improvement or anything else to be in the 12-year. And so it's I think looking at
I don't know if we have that data in front of us right now. My gut tells me that they've been in front of us numerous times and
I
don't know.
My opinion is I don't have any problem with the 12, although because of the situation we've been in the past, until we kind of get this ironed out a little bit more, I think it's more. It's maybe not quite fair to the other schools that they got hung up on. I think, like I said, we've had some confusion or a little bit of straightening out that we need to do with it, so.
I'm sure to your point, it may be appropriate to work with our next director to clean up processes and articulate appropriate protocol around this area. Which we certainly do.
Would that though mean that they just operate on an extension? Are we looking at a 6-year? I mean, is that where we are right now? So do we have the ability to say, see in October? Or do we need to take an action now?
I think if you transfer, you're gonna sign a contract, and so it's either gonna be a 6 or a 12-year contract.
Yeah, and I will say that I'm comfortable with the 12-year because when the new law was promulgated, this is kind of the organizations that we were looking to do a 12-year assignment too, right? I mean, they do great.
Oh, yeah.
But I do understand that we need to have clarification, so there isn't finger.
Chairman,
Please.
maybe a question for Mr. Goff, and I don't know if it's really fair to put people on the spot, but do we have data that shows us any reason, based on our policies, that Gem Prep would not be eligible for a 12-year contract?
Commissioner, Commissioners, I can neither confirm or deny, they met or exceeded every standard for this past year. We'd have to gather, several office, we don't have access to the information. And do some digging on the operational stuff as well. For this last year, I can say affirmatively that they met or exceeded every standard. It's gonna take a bit more digging, and I will not be providing any answer on that.
That was my point. I think that, we don't have that data in front of us, I guess.
Well, they haven't been authorized by us, so we wouldn't.
Right, but they could have their data from their past authorizer. We do have data from Gem Prep, the other schools in general.
So a question, Mr. Bransford, so if we waited to October to make this decision, or do you need to have it made today?
Mr. Chair, because this wouldn't take effect until July 1, 2026, we have time. If we want to table this exact decision for the next meeting, that would be perfectly acceptable to us.
Generally.
Yeah.
Mr. Bransford. So what would your preference be? Go ahead with the 6-year at this point, or bring us more data and come back in October?
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, my preference would be that we wait until October, because I believe, without having run the numbers in the past, I believe that you would see really high performance across the board over many years, and that you would be comfortable while looking at the data at the October meeting, approving a 12-year certification.
Okay.
And if I'm wrong, you can still approve it.
If you're wrong, it's gonna be 3 years. Do we need is the commission okay with that?
Yeah.
I have to make a motion.
That was my next question, but we need a motion for the.
You don't have to make a motion to table it.
Okay, so we'll table it until October. Good enough? Okay. All right, if I may ask for just a 5-minute recess before we go to the next one. I realized I didn't pay the meter downstairs. My pickup is parked, so while you all come up and get ready, I'm gonna run out and see if my pickup's still there.
Mrs. Gold, go ahead.
Okay, next on the agenda is the new charter school application, Director White.
Yes. The petition before us is by Bravian Academy. Bravian proposes to open with 485 to 540 students. That's their break-even versus the full enrollment proposal in grades K through 8 in year 1 of operations, with intent to grow to a maximum enrollment of 740 students in grades K through 12 in year 5 of operations, adding 1 grade per year. Primary attendance area covers Canyon County and Ada County, with a focus on eastern Nampa and western Meridian. School plans to implement an innovative sports-based educational model utilizing separate gendered subcohorts while also heavily implementing classical education, enhanced parental participation, and the option for hybrid or home learning features. The board is comprised of several members with varied backgrounds, including a former school counselor and a parent who has developed a homeschool curriculum. It is important to note for the record that the charter proposal by Bravian Academy is not, and I repeat, is not, or a sectarian or religious school. The Idaho State Constitution and the Idaho Code both require all public schools, and specifically public charters under Idaho Code Section 33-5206 to be non-sectarian. If the commission approves this charter, Bravian Academy will be required to comply with those laws. I think it's important to note that, given the press around this application. Also, our office has expressed concern about the proposed program's compliance with federal law to the extent that gender segregation is intended to be used in the classroom environment. Bravian Academy, however, has assured us that they will consult with legal counsel to ensure compliance, and that they intend to use gender segregation only as an optional tool for occasional use. Again, compliance with all state and federal laws will be mandatory. Our primary concerns relate to the financial situation of the proposed school. School is not leased or acquired a facility, despite the innovative model, and will require significant revenue to open, especially related to sports facilities and grounds. Funding sources include state and federal support, a possible CSP grant, and prospective grants and donations, but no letters of commitment or lease agreements have been provided. While the petition demonstrates community support and some evidence of family interest and need, it includes limited evidence of demand. No enrollment projections based on demonstrated interest within the proposed attendance area, market research, or engagement activities. As explained in the office's analysis, we believe enrollment projections are inflated based on what we see happening among charters and the school age population in the proposed attendance area. For that reason, we recommend approving an innovative charter for a 3-year term under Idaho Code 33-5205-7B. Although the proposed charter utilizes certain traditional elements, such as classical curriculum, physical education, hybrid teaching, the combination of such elements appears unique and experimental within the state, such as the integration of classical education with competitive athletics or using hybrid instruction, which relies heavily on parental involvement. Legislative intent for charters includes creating opportunities for the use of different and innovative teaching methods, hybrid learning, and choice. And this proposal appears consistent with some of those original goals. The shorter term is also warranted by the limited evidence of demand and lack of clear financing, which are our areas of special concern given the unique proposed model, the proposed primary attendance area, and the challenges of the zone commission when looking at the financial performance of charters that we've seen in other areas. So the office is recommending approval, subject to conditions to ensure the school can meet its financial requirements in particular. We've identified a few of those proposed conditions. Of course, the full scope of any conditions are within the charter, within the commission's discretion. The proposed conditions include providing evidence of a facility lease agreement that is signed or otherwise delivered by March 1st of 2026, evidence of a balanced budget based on enrollment from the spring 26 lottery by June 1st, 2026, memorandum of understanding related, all memorandum of understanding necessary to operate the school by June 1st, 2026, all grants and contracts that are part of that budget signed or otherwise delivered by June 2026, and evidence of sufficient transportation to the extent that the holder intends to provide transportation. As I indicated, other conditions may be appropriate in the discretion of the commission. I will note that we've received public comment in support of the petition from Senator Brian Ernie from Nampa, and also Northern Idaho legislators, Senator Carl Bierke and Representative Dale Hawkins.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Mr. Durst, if you'd introduce yourselves and go ahead with your presentation.
Mr. Chairman, thank you again for the opportunity to be here today and the commission for making time for us. Thanks to Director White for all her hard work. I know that taking 2 huge jobs at once is probably quite a daunting task. And I know that your staff has been super overwhelmed with just a lot of responsibilities with a lot of open positions. So I want to just candidly thank you all for Jared and the team and Director White for you guys' hard work. I know that we've been frustrated at times, but I know this. We all want the same thing. We want to see kids succeed in the state of Idaho, and I appreciate all the effort that's been going into that. Just as a bit of roadmap, Chairman Reed, and to the rest of the commission, it's a little strange. I've got my 8th grade English teacher sitting right behind me, and I hope Ms. Wolf was my 8th grade teacher at LeBlanc Junior High School, and I'm feeling a little bit strange being supervised by her right now, but we will do our very best, and hopefully I'll be able to tamp down on some of my 8th grade energy and speak slow enough so that you can all understand me. Let's to start off, we're going to go through the presentation. Please, just as a matter of protocol, if you have questions, I know we need to do introductions for the recording. Yeah, yep, I understand. Just as a matter of protocol, if you have questions, please interrupt us and ask as we go along if you want to. We're happy to stop and pause. So with that, I'll hand it over to our board president, Miguel de Luna.
Mr. Chair, committee members, my name is Miguel de Luna. I am the president of the Academy. To my right is Tom Moore, who is our vice chair treasurer, Laura Gordon, who is our director, and of course is our chair. Julie Delahaye, our secretary, currently stuck in traffic due to an accident, so hopefully she'll be here soon. I'd like to start by giving you a little information about myself. My family were migrant farm workers. When I attended school, I spoke mostly Spanish. Teachers saw I had some difficulties, and I was fortunate to have a fellow student assigned to me to help me through that process. I lived in a migrant farm worker camp to my senior year in high school. After graduating from high school, which was a turning point in my life, I attended junior college. After graduating from junior college, I applied for deputy sheriff in Contra Costa County and started my law enforcement career. I worked 24 years as a deputy sheriff for Contra Costa County. I then transitioned over to a second career with the Oakland Unified School District, where I worked as a police officer. I worked as a criminal investigator, investigated financial crimes, and worked with the Special Victims Unit. Over my law enforcement career, I have worked with at-risk kids, developing summer programs for them, and hopefully be successful. When I worked in Oakland, I followed approximately 15 children from the age of 6 to graduation from high school. Making home visits, speaking with their parents, guardians, making sure that they were completing their homework, and if they needed school supplies, making sure they had nourishment and all that. After my agency was defunded, my wife had 50 years, and I decided to move to Idaho, making it our new home state. I'd like to introduce Tom Moore.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman and directors. I want to change my speech a little bit after hearing my fellow colleague here. I was born in Longview, Texas, a very small town, like many towns in Idaho. The good thing about that, my grandmother moved my mother and my 2 aunts from the Chickasaw Reservation to Texas. It was the biggest life change that I had in my life. From that, I went to high school. It was one of the largest independent school districts in Texas, North Pine Tree School District. We had, I think, 400 seniors graduating that year. From that, I went to the University of Texas in Austin, got a BBA in statistics, BBA Bachelor of Business Administration with statistics and computer programs and background. I graduated in August. 5 days later, I got a draft notice. Ended up joining the Navy and became a fighter pilot. I've been very competitive all my life. In order to get fighters, I had to be the top. In order to guarantee me to get fighters, I had to be the top in my class. Only the top person chose what he wanted to fly. Everybody else was the needs of the Navy. I went from that to Top Gun, Officer and Gentleman School, Top Gun. Ended up in Naval Air Station, Miramar, made one cruise with BF-154. Came back and met my wife, and after flew in the Miramar Air Show. Blind date, we ended up getting married 7 months later. We've been married 48 years and have been with her for almost 49. I've been a very proponent of poor school choices, and I've taken on a school district in the past, and I successfully achieved the superintendent being fired for fraud and theft of over $1 million. I am proud of that, but it's not something I want to do anymore. I want to make sure we're all track in giving every child an equal education. Do you have any further questions, please?
Mr. Chair, committee members, my name is Laura Wharton, and I'm the veteran homeschooling mom with over 15 years of experience. I've been married for 25 years. I have 3 children, 2 that are graduated and young adults, and 1 that is still in high school. I'm also the creator of a Christian Delight Directed curriculum. I worked as a teacher's aide in the public school system. I've taught Sunday school. I've worked at a preschool. Many years being around children with diverse learning needs. I like to help foster children's academic and personal growth. I'm passionate about school choice, and especially parental involvement, believing parents should have options such as homeschooling, public, private, or charter schools to best suit their child's needs. Also, as a sports-oriented advocate and an ex-competitive gymnast and coach, I like to focus on the whole child, supporting programs that nurture academic, physical, and emotional development. Thank you.
Hello, my name's Julie Dillhay. I'm an Idaho native, and I'm very proud to be an Idaho native. And my experience to be on this board, I've been in education for over 30 years. I started out as a teacher's aide when I was 18 years old in the Boise School District and decided I loved education so much I wanted to major in it. I thought, well, I went and finished my bachelor's degree at Boise State University in communication, and I wanted to be a speech and debate coach, but at the time, there wasn't a whole lot of openings in public schools for that, so I did a lot of substitute teaching. And an opportunity presented itself in 1988 that Idaho State University was bringing their Masters of Counseling program to Boise State University with an effort of eventually blending those programs together and having they have their own counseling program. In the meantime, I got my master's degree in counseling from Idaho State University. And that was probably one of my greatest achievements, next to my children and my marriage. But other than that, I was a counselor I've been a counselor since 1990. I started in the Meridian School District in the elementary schools. So I was part of the first big round of elementary counselors in the Meridian District, which was a very lovely experience. Then I moved into middle school for a year and into the Meridian High School for a year. And then I went back to middle school, and before I left Meridian, I was part of the development of the first alternative middle school, which is Crossroads. And that was quite an adventure because we had to change the law so that funding for alternative schools would be funded by the state. So now there's several alternative schools for middle school kids. After that, I went and worked at the Lee Pasadena Learning Center. Learned a lot about kids with disabilities and learning challenges, as well as adults, because we had adults as clients as well. I went on and got my ed specialist degree from the University of Idaho in school psychology, and that's where that experience from the school psych stuff came into play. Was mostly with the Pesky Learning Center, doing all the testing and all of that stuff. While I was there, I developed curriculum for parents and teachers on how to work with kids with attention deficit disorder and autistic spectrum things and those kinds of things. And that was a really fun adventure. I then moved into the College of Idaho, and I was their counselor for 10 years. But I also, as part of that, because I was only part-time, I moved over to the Valley View School District. And when I was at the Valley View School District, I was at Valley View High School, learned a lot about NAIA, NCAA stuff, credits, and I mean, just there was a gamut of stuff. I did work really closely with our district administrators and developing curriculum as well as providing opportunities for kids that had differences, whether it be in sports or music or whatever. I did that. I was still in Valley View. I also got my ed specialist again through the University of Idaho in educational leadership. So by the time I finished, I had certifications as a superintendent, as a special ed director, as a building principal, school psychologist, counselor, a teacher in communications. I retired 5 years ago, and I think one of the things that's exciting about this particular adventure that we're embarking on is that it helps to have kids become student athletes and not athlete students, which I think is a big deal, because a lot of kids who are in sport don't understand or do not appreciate the value of their education and how it makes them become better athletes and how their athletic experience makes them better students.
And I'll, thank you, and I'll quickly introduce myself again. For the record, my name is Brandon Durst. I am the chairman of the Verbion Academy. And this is a quick background. I am also an Idaho native, which is becoming more and more rare in the state of Idaho, and that's okay. And I got my bachelor's degree from Pacific Lutheran University. I got my master's degree in public administration with an emphasis in public policy from Boise State, and a specialist degree in executive educational leadership from Boise State. In this very building, I drafted, along with Senator Stephen Thane, Idaho's first advanced opportunities building program. This building is where that started. And I think you all know how successful that program has been and how much that's helped so many students in the state of Idaho really take their own gumption, their own intuition to move forward in their education. And it's something that frankly, I will always be proud of, because I think it was an innovative program then. No one else in the country did it the way that we proposed to do it. And it proved itself to be working. And that's what we're trying to do here today with Verbion Academy. It's something really unique. And I think as we go through this presentation today, you'll understand why we're excited about the potential of this program and how it has a chance to revolutionize how education is done. Not everywhere, that's not the point of charter schools, but to inform pedagogical approaches to school and maybe help drive some changes in some of our larger schools where they can try things out too, but give us as the chance to be the guinea pig, if you will, to see if it works. From there, I'm going to pass this back to our president, Mr. Miguel Luna, and we're going to go through a few of our things real quick.
On our educational program, the Verbion Academy will have a sports and education program. Both are crucial for a well-rounded development, impacting physical health, mental well-being, and academic success. Sports promotes teamwork, discipline, and leadership, while education provides knowledge and critical thinking skills. Together, they equip individuals with tools and thrive in various aspects of life.
Yeah, it's just you may be wondering, where does the name Verbion come from? It's ancient Greek. It comes actually from Paul's writings in the epistles, and it's the word that's used for the word prize in ancient Greek. And so as a sports school, we're focusing on the prize. The prize isn't academic or isn't athletic. It's not just academic or athletic. It's about developing the whole person and the student becoming the best version of themselves. Because oftentimes in society, we see this right now with the mental health crisis with so many students trying to compare themselves against an unattainable standard. And part of our vision as a school is to teach students to look inward and to figure out who they are and how they can compete and how they can be their best version of themselves. And so much of our programmatic proposal is based on that philosophy. So go to the next slide, please. You've got that. These are just our introduction slides, and I have I don't know, Chairman Reed, what the appropriate ways it is. I have some handouts. It's easier for the committee.
Okay, that's fine.
And Joy, you can just flip through these. We've already done introductions. Thank you so much. There's 3 copies, so you guys can just, if somebody burn out in hand. Sure.
So is this your PowerPoint?
Yes, it's our PowerPoint, and it's also some handouts for some other groups that address some of the concerns that were presented by this.
I'll say there isn't one for each of us.
There's not, but we have digital copies we can provide. I just want to make sure you guys had because we'll have the physical copy here, and I can provide digital copies as well. I just want to make sure. And I apologize for not printing more. I probably should have done this. I apologize. So you guys.
Yeah.
Okay. One of the things that makes this particular charter school distinctive from other charter schools or other schools in general is that it's the first public school of sport. We're going to have curriculum, which is something that's close to my heart, of rhetoric and argumentation. And one of the things that I found being a high school counselor is it was terribly difficult for kids to be able to express their thoughts and their ideas in a way that they felt confident. So public speaking was one of those challenges for kids that just absolutely terrified them. And if we can start at a much younger age and teach kids how to use rhetorical and argumentation kinds of curriculum, and it's just a natural part of life, they're going to be so much further ahead by the time they hit that senior year and have to do that senior project of some sort of a presentation. Another is the Hillsdale curriculum and how it's integrated into all grade levels. One of the things that's going to be really fun is the gender separated subcohorts for tailored learning. And what this really means is that we're going to split kids out by not to discriminate, but to enhance where their strengths and their needs are, and how girls learn differently than boys do a lot of things. And so we're going to give them that extra support on both sides. Strategic uses of our teachers and our aides. One of the things that I've been a public school person forever is that our teachers that have aides do much better than teachers who don't. They need that extra support, as well as the students. They love having that extra classroom support. And so that's one of the things we'll keep very seriously in making sure all of those supports are in place. Another is the bi-weekly assessments for growth. One of the things that we also found, and I know we did at Meridian for a while, was that we did bi-weekly assessments in some of our schools to see where are our kids at. Because if you wait until at the very end of the school year or even halfway through, you've missed a lot of kids. And so by doing it bi-weekly, that opens up more opportunity for adjustment or whatever in that particular class. So that's going to be something I think is really important. Of course, the emphasis on physical development and athletics. We know that when kids are out and they're active and they're not sitting in front of a screen all the time, they're much better prepared to go in and learn. And I think you guys have seen that with the no phone thing and how kids are going, wow, this is really great. I actually talk to people. I used to go into the lunchroom at noon and watch kids text each other that were sitting right next to them instead of having a conversation. I think if we can get them out there and getting involved, building those skills of socializing, I think that's going to be a really important part. And developing this as a physical and athlete is really important because that's one of the things that's missing when you have people who are interviewing students for future jobs. They say they don't know how to talk to each other anymore. They don't know how to work as a team. They don't know how to do a lot of the things that we're going to be teaching in there. finally is an ethical foundation in curriculum. And ethics is a word that's thrown out a lot, but I think it's very important to have integrity and ethics in what we do and what we teach our kids.
Okay, next slide, please. Miguel.
The more capacity building structure.
Oh, hold on. Actually, this is me, sorry. So we have three, we're trying to coordinate together, so I apologize. You have this one? Okay, go ahead, Laura. I knew it wasn't me.
Sorry. Broadband Academy stands on 3 pillars. Pillar number 1 is ethical foundations. Ethical foundations at the Academy means grounding all aspects of education in universal principles of integrity, respect, and responsibility, using these values as the ultimate authority to shape curriculum, culture, and character. It reflects a commitment to teaching students to live out ethical standards, uphold their principles, and understand the world through a value-centered lens. Pillar 2 is critical reasoning. Critical reasoning encompasses the development of critical thinking, rhetoric, argumentation, problem-solving skills, all grounded in values-based framework. It equips students to think deeply, argue persuasively, and solve problems effectively, preparing them to engage with the world as thoughtful leaders, especially in an AI prevalent future. Pillar 3 is all about physical development and athletics. Physical development and athletics at the Academy reflects a commitment to nurturing the whole person, body, mind, and character. Through daily physical education and competitive athletic programs, it fosters health, discipline, and teamwork, preparing students to excel physically with a values-centered purpose.
The next is our vision. Broadband Academy strives to deliver an innovative and dynamic parent-first model of education that nurtures lifelong learners who are capable of being champions, excelling in integrity, intellect, physical vitality through sport to impact the world positively. The mission of Broadband Academy is to equip students to effectively understand, articulate, and apply ethical principles while fostering academic excellence, moral character, and athletic achievement, serving all the children in Canyon County and the surrounding area through a value-centered, sports-focused education. The curriculum and athletic programs will be implemented, studied, and proven to produce excellent results, and with the support of the community, Broadband Academy is confident in achieving the educational and athletic goals. So now we'll talk about, we'll get into our educational program. And we'll start with discussion on the cohort grade.
So cohort learning is something I'm very familiar with. When we developed, I will go back and this little bit of my experience. When we developed the alternative school in Meridian for Crossroads, one of the things we decided on was a cohort kind of model of having kids together in their abilities and as far as just their grade level. And also that would also make it so that we didn't have kids that were really excelling while other kids were just falling behind and get left in the dust. So we really monitored that very closely. And having a cohort learning center is that it builds community. I've been in several graduate programs that are all cohorts. And one of the things that did was that created community with the people that I was in that cohort with. You got to know who those kids were or those adults at the time are and become friends with them and also build those relationships. That is really hard when you have just the regular kind of movement between classes. So having a cohort is a very great way to build community, which is one of the goals of this particular school.
But if I may, I have a question about this. So my understanding is that there were intended to be 2 cohorts. Because the expectations that students would be attending virtually and in person with alternating attendance between these 2 cohorts. So one of the questions I would have, I think it's going to be important for the commission to understand, is how many students will this instructor be responsible for at any given time? Since I believe my understanding was that cohort B was likely going to be largely at home in a home learning environment, unless they decided or desired to attend in person. So
Yeah,
I might have jumped you.
You did, but that's okay. That's the next 2 slides, but
Okay.
just to kind of address the question, and then we'll get into it a bit more. So The cohorts are, so we have it, the way that we have it structured, at least at the beginning, is that we're proposing having 60 students per grade level. Each grade level is divided into 2 cohorts of 30 students at the most. The teacher of record is a teacher of record for both cohorts. Each cohort is assigned a cohort 8. Now, most of you are going to be familiar with the idea of a paraprofessional. This is different than a para. This is somebody who we are hoping to put into our education pipeline to actually become teachers. And one of the things that's also unique about this, and it goes to what Ms. Dillahay was saying, is teachers are overwhelmed. We're asking them to do too much. We want, in my opinion, and I think the opinion of the rest of our board, we want teachers to focus on the thing that made them excited about becoming teachers, which is teaching. And so one of the things that we do differently to help manage the load is that these cohort aides fill a really unique role. They not only provide assistance for the instructional piece, but what they also do is they also help grading. Any grading that the teacher does not want to do, if they have a grading rubric, for example, they can teach this teacher, they can teach the aide. Here's how my grading rubric works. I want you to use this. So that takes time. I mean, how many times have you guys spoken with teachers that have said, I spent all Sunday night working on getting these papers graded so I can go to school on Monday morning. I don't want teachers to have to do that. I want teachers spending their time focusing on lesson planning, looking at their at the biweekly assessment, formative assessments to make sure that those are going well, looking at scope and sequence, making sure their lesson plans are aligning with state standards, being creative. That's what I want them focusing their time on, not on grading, not on communicating emails about whether or not Timmy's going to get picked up from the bus today or not. That's what the cohort aide can do. And so what we do is we drive more time into these cohort aides for things that frankly take a lot of time. If you think about if any of you are familiar with the quadrant of time things that take, the things that take a lot of time but at little value, you know, in the top right corner, top left corner, we're taking those things off the plate of the teacher and putting those on the plate of the cohort aide. And I can tell you that if you look through Six Sigma or Black Belt or those sorts of like continuous improvement programs, that is the sort of thing you're supposed to do to alleviate time suckers from your professional staff. And we're looking at that as with somebody with a background in continuous improvement. I said, this is how we do that. So does that help answer your question? And we'll get into the day-to-day piece next, is that okay?
I think you need to go on and explain the
Yeah,
day-to-day piece.
That's next.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
Commissioner Kohler.
I just want to make sure I understood. Depth anymore. Did I hear you say that you're going to have a teacher for a cohort and a cohort is going to be 60 students? Did I understand that correctly?
Chairman Reed, Commissioner Kohler. So not exactly. So if you think about it in terms of each teacher is this, if you think about it as a section in a post-secondary level, right? You'll have one section and then you're going to have a subsection for each. In the secondary level, that'd be the faculty or the instructor for that course, the professor for that course. And then that course will be broken into 2 sections of equal size, subsections of equal size. And that's so there will be one teacher of record who will provide direct instruction. And then there'll be 2 aides who provide support to each of their assigned cohorts. And so if you look here at the diagram that we've got in front of you, this is an example of how it works. So the reinforcement days, we call them reinforcement days, right? So on A day, which is weird to say, on day A, the reinforcement days are broken up so that the cohort A, you can see here, has access to their teacher of record and their aide. So what does that mean? That means you have an adult to child ratio in that classroom at that time of 15:1, which is exceptional. The cohort B, some of this goes to your question, Director White, is the cohort B, some of the students will choose to attend in person. Now, I want to make sure it's crystal clear. After they leave the elementary environment, choosing to be at home is no longer available to them. They have to be in class. And why? We know that OSB and others and the statutes have requirements around instructional time. For those lead into the cognitive accreditation parts that we have to be aware of. And so they have to be at school every day once they get into 7th grade. And that's to be cognizant of those regulations. But students can choose to stay at home. They can choose to do half the day on the reinforcement day at home. They can choose to do the entire day of the reinforcement day at home. They can do it one day a week. They can do it all the time. It's any machination that you can imagine is at the purview of the parent. And that's what this is all about. This is about giving parents the autonomy and the authority, which we're not giving to them. I believe that they have it anyway. And our state constitution says that they have it. We're just recognizing that authority and saying, hey, you make the decision as to what works best for your family. And we will come alongside you and support you in that. And so the cohort aide is also always there. The other thing to be cognizant of as well is that we have a master teacher as employed as well as a part of our program. And so teachers, so if the cohort aide, let's say for example, a student is on the reinforcement day and they're with the cohort aide and they've got a question. We contact the master teacher. She comes down, she comes down, provides direct instruction to that student, one-on-one, individualized instruction to that student, and gets them going. That's also where we do our group work, because again, we're about building teams. So that facilitates that teamwork. That helps for more remediation. If a student is struggling, we have time to provide the remediation. If a student is excelling, we have time to help facilitate that as well. And so they can also re-watch the lesson that they had the day before or is going on at that very moment. They're only separated by a screen or a curtain. You guys have seen the sound breaking curtains. That's what divides the cohorts from each other every day. So the teacher of record is right there. If there's a real issue that needs to be addressed, they can go over and talk to their students. And we use a program called Engagely, which is a super highly innovative tool. We'll utilize that along with our LMS, which will be Skyward, to help facilitate that communication, allow for both synchronous and asynchronous learning for students that choose to learn from home, and be able to have those all recorded. And I know there was a question by the staff about, making sure that those were protected, and we were paying attention to FERPA requirements. Those will all be locked down in a password encrypted portal that only parents who have the right to see those things get into them, and available through our Google or whatever program we use to get access to the content.
Chairman Reed, I think if I may, Mr. Dershowitz, we spent a lot of time talking about kind of the intended structure of this. And so if we're going to use kind of a hypothetical Johnny as an example, so Johnny goes to brick and mortar on Monday as part of this. He's part of a 30-person cohort with a teacher in front of him and additional support from a master teacher who can help to enhance that instruction or provide specific support. Is that correct?
Correct.
And then the expectation is that if Susie, it might be learning from home that day, on Monday. Johnny's in class, Susie's at home. And then the next day, they may switch. And Susie comes into class, Johnny goes home to learn virtually through the enhanced support of parental involvement.
Right. And I want to make sure it's really clear, because I can imagine if I was sitting in your shoes, I'd be thinking, well, how do we know that Johnny's learning at home? Right. Parents have to sign a code of ethics, which we provided to the board, to the commission. And part of that is an asset station that they have access to all of the materials necessary to be able to learn from home. We're not just saying that you're going to get to take a day off every other day. That's not what this is about. If a child is showing that they're not participating on those reinforcement days, if they're choosing to do home learning as a part of that, that option will be taken away from them. Because it's paramount to us that these students are learning every day of the week. And I think it'll be important to hear that Laura she's, with her background in homeschooling, I think it's really important to hear why the value add for this from a parenting perspective.
Please. I don't want to dig too deep into the weeds, but I'm struggling to understand right now why once they reach the middle school level, this cohort, if I understood, and I'm not saying I've got everything there, is a mandatory attendance, whereas the state focus, at least with fundamentals and reading, is K3. So why wouldn't the K3 group be the one that is mandatorily held in the classroom for that, and it's not essential, it's an absolute must-have mastery. I'm a little lost here on the rationale behind that, and 60 children for a kindergarten or a first grade teacher, especially children who have not had a great deal of exposure to reading. That's a weight. That is a tremendous weight. Could you help me understand the rationale behind that decision, which almost seems to be reversed in my mind?
Certainly, Mr. Commissioner Reed, Chairman Reed, Commissioner Kohler, I'll start and see if any of my fellow board members have anything to add. There's two factors primarily at play here. Number one is the cognitive related accreditation piece that we have to be cognizant of in conjunction with the ramp up of competitive athletics for our secondary grades. So that's part of the driving factor from an athletic and from an academics perspective. The other pieces, and I completely agree with you. K3 master, I think we've all seen the reports nationally and that talk about, the ability to be at grade level literate by grade 3 is critical for future academic development. I think we all know that. We know that, and that is not being ignored here. What we're saying is younger children oftentimes struggle to uncleave from their parents. I can just speak from personal experience. I have 5 kids. My second youngest started kindergarten last fall. He had never gone to a 5-day week program, but that's what the school offered. That was the only choice that they had. He was used to spending time with grandparents each week. He was supposed to spend time with me and my wife each week, and he lost that. And let's be really honest with each other. There is not 5 days worth of work in our scope and sequence that these students are doing. There's a lot of time for remediation that's happening and for redirect and for repeating information. My perspective, our board's perspective is parents still matter. And we believe that if a mom or a dad or a set of parents believe that their child will do better if they're home a couple days a week and they can provide some support to them, that's okay. And I would also completely agree with you. If we were to just drop 30 students into a kindergarten classroom and not provide that kindergarten teacher any other support, we would be asking for disaster. I think we would all agree with that. It would be very, very hard, but that's not what we're doing. We're asking that we're giving that teacher a dedicated aide who will go with that student, that cohort every single grade from K through 6. So they will get to know that person really, really well and have a relationship built with them of trust and to work with them. And we also have a master teacher who can provide support. And so I appreciate the concern because I share it with you, but I also believe that we have built in the structural supports to mitigate those things. And really it comes down to, do we trust parents to do these things? And it goes, frankly, and we're going to skip a little bit ahead, but I appreciate the question. It goes to the question of disenrollment from the Nampa School District. Because we've seen that, and I think that's a reality. And Laura can speak to this better than anybody sitting up here, but the reality is a lot of parents have lost trust in the public schools, and that's an existential threat to our republic. It's right there in Article 9, Section 1 of the Idaho Constitution. And we have to rebuild that trust. And part of that is giving parents the choice as to what that education looks like for their kids. And you wouldn't get somebody like Laura on a board like this if we didn't try to do something different. We're trying to bring these parents back to the schools because we lost them in 2020. And I think that we can all, go ahead.
Are we getting your question answered? Kinda, no.
So
I really need you to focus on just specifically the question.
Okay.
And I can to clarify,
Please.
So the question is, and I think Commissioner Kohler's concern is, are we having a single teacher in front of 60 students on a daily basis?
They'll never be in front of 60 students at the same time. They will only be in front of 30 students at the very most, and they will have an aide to support them. We know that exists in current public schools throughout the state of Idaho without an aide.
So and if I may, Chairman Reed, so what is happening on the other side of that curve, right? So you indicated a partition.
Right.
Where we have 30 students on one side who's being primarily supported by another teacher. As far as I understand it, the expectation is that, you know, and this may not be entirely accurate, so please correct me if I'm wrong, that essentially the opportunity for asynchronous learning is happening on the other side of that partition. That may not be exactly what is happening with cohort A, but they have an opportunity they have a space to come to where they can do their learning if it is not happening from home with the support of a teacher aide if necessary.
Yeah, thank you for that. I apologize for not being more direct with the answer. So the answer, yes. On the other side of the curtain, this is what's happening. Side A in this particular model, you've got your teacher providing direct instruction to up to 30 students along with their cohort aide that's providing support as well. On the other side of the curtain, any percentage of students for other 30 students in the other cohort are either at home or they're at the school, and they're either doing asynchronous learning or doing stuff that's already been taught. They're watching synchronous live learning, which is being provided for them with the stuff that's being taught on the other side of that curtain. If they want to re-watch it again, because some students need to be taught again multiple times, they could be doing group work. They could be doing remediation, if that's something that's important, that's necessary for them. They could be doing advanced work if they've already got it and they want to be moving on. Was that a good enough direct answer?
Well, I understand what you're saying. My worry on the structure as you have it. Aides are a gamble. You may have somebody who has the skill or a background in teaching fundamentals of reading. You may not, because the state does not require it. 60 children, which is actually far above what the monetary allocation per classroom for a kindergarten class is, just seems to be an overwhelming number. And then I look at that and I think about if the child is coming from an environment where there has been early introduction to those reading skills, good. If I'm coming from an environment where there may be language struggles, or an environment, and I understand you're looking at parents, one of the parents being home. If education isn't a priority, that's also always a struggle. I'm just trying to work this out through my mind about how we are able to maintain a focus on K-3 reading and an introduction to mathematics with those kind of numbers. And then when we say that the teacher is only dealing with 30 of the children at any given time, that teacher in the end is accountable for that entire cohort. And so meeting the needs of 60 children, 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, 7 if they don't have the background, almost seems overwhelming to me. And then when we talk about a master teacher, are they a reading specialist? Or are they a master teacher in something else? I have some understanding of what the old definition, which is no longer pursued, my understanding, though it's been a while. You took a year's course, and if you checked all the boxes, you became a master teacher. That does not mean they're a reading specialist. So are we hoping for some Title I money to come in? And then that we'll be looking at a reading specialist coming through Title I. These are just the things that are working through my mind as you guys are laying out your plan.
I'd love to.
Okay. I'm gonna ask that the chair ask for the response before the response is given, if that's okay, so we don't get into kind of a debate thing going on here, so please.
Mr. Chair, thank you. So I just wanted to interject. So my son went to kindergarten at Star Elementary. And there was 30 kids in the classroom with one teacher. There were no aides. And I actually, as a parent, volunteered to come help in the kindergarten classroom. One thing that I observed while I was in there was that you have all these little children that were 5 and 6 years old, boys especially, who have a hard time sitting still. And a lot of them, the teacher had asked me if I would be willing to sit and help, read with some of these children. And what I observed is one, like Brandon was saying, a lot of these children were not even ready to be away from their parents. One little boy was crying and saying, I just want to go home to my mommy. But yet he was expected to sit through a school day at a table with 6 other kids and everybody's talking. So in my mind, I think parents having involvement in their children's education is a really important thing. I don't think that you have to have an educated background as a degree or something to teach a child to read. My daughter has a lot of learning challenges. And if she were in the public school system, more than likely, she probably would have just kind of been pushed on through. But because we homeschooled, I had the opportunity to see that she was struggling, figure out what the issue was. And then because it's my child and I have her best interest at heart, I dove in head first and just tried to figure out what the issue was to help her to learn to read. And I don't know if that answers your question at all about children K through 3rd grade learning to read, but typically parents are the ones that teach their children all the beginning things anyways. And so I don't know if that helps, but that's just my input.
Can I say?
Okay, please.
Being on that other side of the wall, so to speak, working with little kids, and I totally get Mr. Cole, exactly what you're talking about, because I've seen those numbers and I've talked with teachers who are about ready to pull the fruit hair out after, the first 3 weeks of school, and the kids are like, I've got kids that are excelling, kids that are so far behind, I don't know if I'll catch them up. And so one of the things, as part of my school psych background, we started doing is that testing piece. And I think one of the things that we've talked about, because I spent some time talking with about this, of my concern is if you have a little kid, and I know there are families, especially out in Canyon County, which I know you're very familiar with, that all they can do, they're just trying to make enough money to get food on the table. They don't have time to sit with their little kid every other day. So I asked, what would you do in a situation like that? And what the reinforcement is, have those kids come every day. And if they need to be home, we can have them be home, but let's get them there. The other thing I have explored with these guys is a mentoring process, so that there's somebody there at that school, like we had our high school kids go to our elementary schools and work with little guys on reading and writing and some of those basics. And our high school kids loved it, and the little kids adored it. They thought it was the best thing, soup or sliced bread or whatever your is. But I think what you're saying, I totally agree with you. I don't think anybody disagrees with that. That's a lot of kids to put in a classroom, especially when they're so little and they don't have that discipline yet to know what they need to do. So I think providing more opportunity for support is really important as well. And that biweekly testing is going to tell us a lot. If they're not up to that standard, then we need to have a confidence with the parent and say, you can start having your child come in every day, we'll sit and we'll start doing remediation with them. Because we know what the IRI scores look like, we know how hard it is with those little people. Some of it is just, they're just too little to take a test, they can't sit still long enough to do it.
There's a lot of argument to be said that there's 5-year-olds, especially boys, who maybe shouldn't be in kindergarten yet.
Not many. So that I'm just saying is that, and it may be that we need to adjust the number in the cohort for those little slower grades too. And that's something that, you know, we can do if that's what needs to be done.
Yeah, you want to go ahead? Yes, please.
I would like to finish the presentation before, I do have some more questions, but I'd like to hear what you have to say.
Thank you. All right, we can continue. Thank you, Joanne. So we were just going through with the reinforcement days. You can see as it flips the next day on the B day, the B person's in class, the B cohort's in class, the A cohort's doing the reinforcement either at home or with the cohort A in the master teacher. So that we've gone through that. We don't need to go over that again. Now we're on the curriculum.
As you can see, these are the curriculums that we have initially identified as being a curriculum. Most of the curriculum that we will be getting is not, there's no charge for it at this point. We know Saxton Math and there's a couple of others that they do charge for, but as a beginning school, these are all very well accepted curriculum and they meet state standards, which is very important. So just to take a look at those, if you have questions about specific ones, we can certainly answer them, but I think you guys are familiar enough with curriculum, we don't need to bring that on to it nauseam, so. Okay, so growth and assessment, I think, as we were saying, the biblical assessments, I think, are critical, especially, that's one of the things I think is one of the most important things is that data, being data driven, and I know, it's something that I'm sure all of you guys are very much in favor of, because how do you know if anything's happening if you don't have the data to prove it? And so I think having those bi-weekly assessments will help in determining, are we on the right track? Are we even close? Or are we going too slow and kids are moving past us, or what's the deal? So having that is really important, and having the time for the teachers to sit and talk and collaborate is going to be important too, and that's one of the things that we're going to try to build into this. And then just having those, having parents be a part of those assessments, because I think a lot of times we send home, I remember sending home assessments like ISATs or the IRIs or whatever, and parents look at them and they have no idea what it means, absolutely not. And quite frankly, being a school like that's really not very ethical of us to do. We need to provide explanation of this is where your child is at. This is what these things mean in terms of your child's growth. This is what they need to work on. This is where they're strong. This is where their needs are at. So I think that's going to be really important. And a lot of times you have to force parents to get involved just a little bit. I know it's easier at the lower grades than it is at the upper grades because we never see parents come in. A lot of times we have parent-teacher conference and high school with 2,000 kids and we might get 100 parents. So, and they were always the parents that didn't need to be there because their kids were going anyway. But that's what I think that's the bi-weekly assessment, along with the state testing that we have to do, is really important.
And I think to piggyback off of that, one of the real critical benefits to this is test anxiety is a real thing. There are students that when they get in front of the IRI test, they freeze. And the vendor that we've chosen actually has the ability to have the test screen that they're doing, their bi-weekly formative assessments on, to look exactly like that state test they're going to be taking. And why is that important? Because by the time they get to the spring semester and they're taking their IRI, they will have already taken a test that looks exactly like this 20 times. It won't be new, it'll just be a little bit longer. And I think that is going to build a lot of confidence in these kids. It's not going to be this brand new thing they've never seen before, and all of a sudden, okay, now we have to deal with it. No, it'll be like, oh yeah, I've done this before. I know how this works. And I think especially for the younger grades, that's going to add a lot of of calm to the equation, because a lot of our kids aren't showing how good they really are because they get so into their own heads that they can't do that. And so we're creating a way for them to show that they are capable. And so I thought that was an important point to add. Go ahead, we can move on. Yeah.
That's section 3.
Okay, so the physical and education and athletics piece to this obviously is central to what we're doing. This is a really unique thing about our school. This is what charter schools are all about, is doing unique things. There's not another public school, private school, any other school in the state of Idaho that provides 1 hour of physical education every single day to every single student. Not one. Most schools in the state of Idaho provide 20 to 30 minutes twice a week. You talk about those little boys who can't sit still. This is going to be such a blessing for them because they're going to get to move every day and they're going to have time to get the jitters out so they can, when they get back to class, they can focus. And we're not fighting against these kids' natural inclinations. We're working with them. And so that's a huge piece. This, by the way, that counts for the reinforcement days too. They still go to PE on reinforcement days if they're at school. And that provides time for collaboration with the cohort aides and the teacher and with the master teacher as well. We separate that in grade 5. And I think you, especially the ladies, can appreciate why that grade is particularly important for that change to happen. And we know the legislature has seen that too. And I think we all agree with that. Optional sports specific training for those kids that are participating in school sanctioned sports to be able to spend time in addition to their PE time to work on that as a credit for their school. One really unique thing that we do is we hire a sporting director, which is very different than an athletic director. Typically, an athletic director is just another job that somebody has to do. And so they can't dedicate the time they need to have to that role. This is a full-time position, 240-day contract, and they are responsible for recruitment of coaches, training coaches, working with parents, working with student athletes. And what we hope happens is that we can replace some club coaching for these kids. We've talked about the demographic of students that we're going to be working with. A lot of them are very low income. Their parents can't afford to spend $2,000 a year for the kids to get access to high level coaching. I coach those kids myself because that's where we live. And a lot of those kids are phenomenal athletes. But if you ask their parents to pay that kind of money, it would never happen. And just as a sports fan, I want to see the best athletes get the most opportunity. And so we're going to democratize that experience for them. One of the other things the sporting director does is they develop relationships when we build out to our high school. They start developing relationships with colleges and universities. So our kids can start being scouted and we get some eyes on the state of Idaho into the Treasure Valley. And they manage obviously all the scheduling and they work with IHSAA to do that. And one of the things that's going to be really different about our school, and it's in our budget already, is we're going to offer very generous stipends for our coaches. And that's the same thing true of our cohort aides. And I didn't get a chance to say that, but I think it's important. We're paying more, at least 25% more than any surrounding district for our cohort aides. And we're paying at least 50% more for all of our coaches. And not everybody's driven by money, but it doesn't hurt. And so being able to offer $10,000 to your head baseball coach instead of $5,000, you're going to get people who we have a lot of talent in this area. People who've been professional baseball players or professional, golfers or they live here. And if we can offer them a little bit of money to make up for their time, that's going to drive a lot of benefit to our students. Next, there were questions, Director Whitehead brought them up already related to our compliance with federal law. I think you've already heard, we are fully committed to following Title IX, FERPA, ADA, all of those things. We will do that. And in fact, I've got a vision, I've got a heart. It's not part of this original, be part of a future amendment, but I really want to see us be able to branch out into Special Olympics and be able to have part of our school dedicated to those kids that do that. Because I think it's important for our students to be around those students to see that that they may be a little bit different, but they deserve their attention and their support and their respect too. And the best way to do that is to give them familiarity with those kids. That's not in front of you today, but that's just so you guys can understand our vision and our heart for where we want to see this go. That's part of it. Our 5-year plan, like we've already talked about, we're looking to open K-8 starting next fall, and we would hope to add a grade each year thereafter. That's strategic. We want to have plenty of a runway, and part of that is around Cognia accreditation. It's much easier for Cognia if they can work with you from the outset of your high school instead of once you've already got a high school set. And so we're aware of that. I've worked with Dale before, and he knows me and I know him, and so we'll work together, Ed, and we will work together to make sure that we are following all the things that they have for us, so that so by the time we're actually authorizing the administration of the diploma, we're fully accredited. Those kids can have confidence that when they apply to whatever institution or do whatever they want to do, that they can have confidence. And the other piece of that is to really bring in a lot of CTE. Our proposed site is literally across the freeway from CWI's CTE program. And so we would really hope to build a relationship with them to be able to give that access to those kids so they can, regardless of what they want to do after school, that they're prepared to do it. Next.
I'm gonna ask you to kind of walk through these fairly.
Yeah, we're almost done.
Efficiently, because we're kind of time on a general presentation.
Okay, great. Thank you, Chairman. We're almost finished. Tom, here.
What we're planning in the budget, we intentionally overstated all the expenses. We understated the revenue. So I have really high confidence in this budget. The first year, we have $120,000 in the bank, and we still have a 3% reserves, and we have other funds of revenues that we could proceed. It's not in the budget. You can see year two, we actually have 250,000, and in year three, we grow to 1,178,000. Year four and year five, and we started increasing the grade those 2 years. Our revenues dropped. We have a $440,000 loss because we had that first grades pulling up and getting those teachers. But we still have $7.5 million. We can go through year five. We have a $70,000 loss, and that's when we started getting up into full revenue with the expenses that we had in year four. In addition, Brandon, can you turn to the?
Yeah. Let me just real quick run through this. So you all appreciate how the salary-based apportionment is calculated in the state of Idaho. Our reforms were intentionally placing almost all of our faculty at the bottom end of the career ladder. So that necessarily lowered our salary-based apportionment a lot. I can tell you, and I told Director White this and the staff, we have had teachers who have master levels degrees who are at the higher end of the career ladder and have already expressed interest in teaching for our school. These revenue numbers are much lower than what they will actually be, but we want to be conservative. We want to be worst case scenario, and that's a part of that. And so we also didn't assume any growth in revenue from the state, which I think we all can see that's never happened before. Every year there's at least some increase. We assume for zero increase. And from on a per pupil basis for that amount. Okay.
The operating budget, we have detailed it, I think Director has, but again, what I said before is our revenues are conservative and we're projecting use for certified staff at the bottom of the scale, which Brandon just covered. In fact, I think he covered most of this entire slide.
As far as pre-open is concerned, obviously, we're doing this on a worst case scenario. We've got some information, even as of yesterday, related to that. Our costs are higher than they actually are going to be. There's less renovation for our preferred facility. I have as part of the handouts you guys saw this morning that I handed out. We've heard from Colliers, their agent. They're very interested in working with us. They're willing to work with us to get this done. They need us to be approved first, and that's really where we're stuck. We have to be approved. Like we have to get authorized, and then all the other ducks will fall in a row. But there is a lot of movement already happening, and the costs are going to be. We overstated our costs because we wanted to be as skeptical or pessimistic as possible when it came to costs.
And as part of that, I didn't actually cover it in my resume, but I was in commercial real estate and actually sold quite a bit of land. and did master plan developments as well as office buildings, industrial buildings, leased all into IBM and Allstate. But in working with developers in financing, which I had from a national university, I had a major in accounting, auditing, and tax, but I had a minor in financing for a national university. You're asking us without an approval, we can't go to somebody that's gonna maybe donate money to us to help us get started when they know we don't even exist yet. We can't go to a real estate developer, real estate owner and say, hey, we like the building, we can't prove to you how we can pay for it. So I think that's the point that Brandon was really trying to hang on there.
And just in the sake of time, let's speed through this really quick. Obviously, we've worked with we have a potential partner organization who's willing to pay for the cost of the athletic facilities in terms of the actual courts and all that sort of stuff. We've got somebody who's really interested in that. In fact, they went with us yesterday through the facility again with their board chairs to do that. They have the ability to leverage a lot of funds. Other partnerships include Hillsdale. We already have approval to use the 1776 curriculum. But again, any further involvement with them requires an authorization first. I provided that email from them that outlines that. The 501c3 application has been submitted to the IRS. We're waiting for approval for that. That's a lengthy process, as you all know. Going on to section 3, we have strong governance and capacity. We have over 100 years of experience. We've already gone about that. We don't need to dwell on that again. Student demand, I know there's concern about that. We think the demand is there. There's no other school sport in the state of Idaho. This is going to draw students that otherwise would not look at other charter schools. We know that. We're just asking for a chance to prove it. We've got people interest in forums that have been submitted to us. We've got one from a chairman of a committee, and his grandchild wants to attend our school. We know there's interest. As far as the primary attendance area, I apologize to Director White. My reading of the statute was we just need to provide an attendance area. I appreciate that you guys want to have continuous roads that provide that. We have a radial perspective. We can work that out and figure out exactly how that works. As far as our transportation plan is concerned, we're looking at using a hub and spoke approach. So we can use, there's a new law that passed last session, just went into effect in July, that allows schools to use shuttle buses instead of full yellow buses. I can tell you, this has been something that schools have been asking for, especially schools up north, for years, because it's a waste of money to put 6 kids on a giant bus to go on a 3-hour drive to an athletic competition. But that was the only thing they were allowed to buy their money, use their money with. Now we can buy small buses. That gives us the ability to have more capacity because we can buy more shuttle buses for less money. We don't have to have a CDL. We don't have to have a specialized mechanic. We can get to more areas more quickly. And by the way, from an ADA perspective, that means we can get access to those kids too a lot more readily. So that helps kids. Shorter bus rides is good for kids. So we have every intention of Director White providing a robust transportation solution for our students. Finally, the school leadership and management piece. Sorry, guys, I'm just going to go through this quick. Our academic leadership is really strong. Obviously, we talked about our CAO, who reports for our head of schools. We have an elementary teachers, master's teachers, secondary teacher, an art and music teacher, and a PE teacher, and then all of us, obviously, the teachers that fall underneath that. This is a full build out, just for reference. You've seen in our petition, we have the full organizational chart as color coded by when that would go online. This is a full build out of year 5. The SPED director, the same thing. You can see how that works on the SPED side. And athletic leadership, again, going back to sporting directors. One thing that you'll note is our teachers, our PE teachers are both accountable to both our SPED director, our sporting director, and to our CAO. They report to both. And that's because we want to make sure there's what we're teaching in our PE classrooms don't conflict with what our coaches are teaching on the field or what we're trying to train there. Final thoughts, Albert Shanker, the founder of the charter school movement, said the central idea of charter schools is that they should be laboratories of innovation where teachers can develop and test new teaching methods that, if successful, can be adopted by traditional public schools. That's what this proposal is about. This is unique. I appreciate Dr. Kohler's consternation. I really, 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 really do. This is different.
Dr. Colonel.
Dr. Colonel. I appreciate the concern. I really do. We're trying something different. We want to see if it works, and if it doesn't, then you can pull the plug on us. And that goes to our last slide, which is what our request is. We're only requesting conditional authorization. We recognize the fiduciary responsibility the state of Idaho has placed on this commission to make sure you're not authorizing things that are gonna fail or that will cost the state money. And so all we're asking for is 6 months. Give us 6 months to prove that we can have a facility, that we can have the funding for free operations, and that we can get the student enrollment the way that we say that we can. If we can't do that, then tell us we can't enroll in the fall. Give us another year to show that we can. We're not asking to open these doors willy-nilly with, stuff not completed. We're not asking for that. We understand that would be irresponsible for these students. That would be irresponsible for taxpayers in the state of Idaho. We're just asking for a chance to prove that this works, to get everything finalized that is contingent upon authorization, so we can finish the last pieces that need to come together and demonstrate to all of you that we have a product that's desirable to students and to families and that will work. And we'd love to answer any questions that you may continue to have.
Questions?
I have 3 or 4 comments, questions here.
Please.
I looked at your estimate of enrollment in the first year. And I realize you want to be optimistic, but I think it might be unrealistic, especially with the advent of the tax credits. And I know you're going to go out and CUNA is growing and Valley View. West Ada actually lost students last year. I think the jury is out. Nobody knows what their counts are this year. So other than those projections, how did you reach that number of 475? I mean, what's the source of that number?
Chairman Reed, Director Hendrick, the Commissioner Hendrick, that's a great question. So it's based on a couple of things. Number one, we do see growth in obviously CUNA and in Valley View. Speaking to a trustee in West Ada, she's concerned about the growth that they're seeing in certain parts of their district as well, which are the areas that are closest to where we're proposing to be. And not really wanting to go back to taxpayers in that district to ask for another bond to build another school. As far as where our numbers are at, that was based off of a couple of other factors as well. Number one is looking at other Hillsdale schools that have been approved by this commission and their success in being able to attract students. To my knowledge, and if this is wrong, please correct me. I'm not trying to provide misinformation to the commission, but it is my understanding that every charter school that's been has any degree of Hillsdale affiliation has reached full capacity within the first year of their opening, and they have a wait list that's at least 50% of their capacity within 3 years. So we have that affiliation. We believe that will be important. And I think your point about the new tax credit law is well taken. And I think that is actually one of the reasons that we chose to go in this direction. There isn't another school, private or public, that offers a focus in sports the way that we are proposing to do it. And that's where I think we differentiate ourselves.
Okay.
And I think that's how we can.
You project 90% proficiency in math and reading. I'm board chair of one of the oldest successful charters in the state. We have never reached that. We have reached into the 80s occasionally. And with the lottery system where you have to take all the students, you get some that are academically challenged. So to achieve that, I'm just going to say I think it's unrealistic. It's a nice goal. We shoot for 100%. We've not gotten there in 27 years. The next question, and my final question, is Chair. So as I understand it, some of these kids are going to have the opportunity to learn from home. And I'm wondering to myself now, if that means that you're going to get state support from those kids full time, and then are the parents going to turn around and request a percentage of the tax credits for being homeschooled?
Chairman Reed, it's a great question, Commissioner. I appreciate the opportunity to address it. Number one, these students are enrolled full-time. So if you think about the idea of fractional ADA within our system, this does not apply to them. They're full-time students within our charter school. For parents who keep their kids home, they are signing an attestation that says that they are providing that instruction, like we've already talked about. If those students begin to regress academically, that option is going to be taken away. because we want to make sure the kids continue to move forward. And that helps mitigate the issue around double dipping, because it's a real concern that we have to worry about from a fiduciary standpoint as well. So I think we've got that already covered. They can't do both. They're full-time equivalents in our schools, and they have to be able to be learning every single day, whether it's an asynchronous thing, but they have to complete it that day. It's not like what we saw with some of our other online providers where they have like my oldest son went through Connections Academy. For example, he had all semester to complete his coursework, right? And he sometimes waited till the last 3 weeks to start even working on any of his coursework. That's not how it works here. Every single day they have to log in. That's how we're provided the ADA for that day, is that they've gone through and watched what they were supposed to do and completed whatever it is that was assigned to them.
Okay, well, let's hope that's the case. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Other questions? Please,
Mr. Chairman, first. There's a lot of moving components going on here, and you're asking for a conditional certificate, and obviously we want to promote innovation. My concern and question is there, in implementing all these potential innovative strategies, is there a history or a foundation that you can point back to say this group of things will work well together to provide, academic success for these students ultimately, and not just anecdotally, but we really truly believe that there's research that shows that a combination of these different elements will provide academic success for these students.
Yeah, considers Chairman Reed, I'm not sure if state representative or commissioner, either way. But that's a good question. So one of the things about charter schools are supposed to be innovative. We know that all these things in isolation lead to better student outcomes. Higher parental involvement is the best predictor of a student's outcome, right? We know that's true. The data on that is voluminous. We know that student athletes tend to have lower dropout rates than their peers. They tend to have higher academic, they tend to have higher grades. We know that's true. We know that classical education, which is another component we're looking at here, also tends to provide better academic outcomes for kids. What we're looking at is we're saying, we've got all these things, right, that we know work. What if we did them all together? Do we have proof that anybody has ever done this before? No. But if we did, this wouldn't be nearly as innovative. We're trying something new. We recognize that it may not work. That is a possibility. We believe it will. That's why we're asking for conditional approval, is to show that it can work, and work through with the commission's help, making sure that we give it its best chance.
Yeah, I'm just first, okay. Mr. Dersh, we keep talking about conditional approval. So we don't have conditional approval. We have 3-year or 6-year approval with conditions. We can't make up an approval timeline, number of months, or anything like that. Just so we're all on the same page here.
Sure. Thank you for that clarification. That was one of my questions. My next question is, what is the basis for your projection of 90% proficiency? Commissioner Hedrick asked the question and I didn't hear it correct. I didn't hear a clear answer.
Chairman Reed, I would exactly think Vice Chairman Barry.
I didn't give you a chance to answer.
I wasn't sure I got a chance. So anyway, that's fine. Well, let me address it directly. My educational philosophy is if you give students high bars, they reach high goals. If you set low bars, they'll reach low goals. Is it aspirational? Yes. Will we reach 90%? Maybe not. But you don't tell an athlete going into a track event that we want you to get the bronze. We go into our track event and telling our student athletes, we want you to get the gold. Will they always reach that? No, because what we're measuring them against is their own best self. But if they have a standard up here, they're always looking up to achieve. They're never looking down. And that's what our vision is. That is all about our philosophy in education. is believing that if we're asking students to look up all the time, they'll continue to push themselves and achieve things that they maybe otherwise wouldn't be able to.
Follow up.
Yes.
You mentioned that you're using an LMS as Skyward.
Yes.
Tell me about the difference between an LMS and an SIS.
Yeah, it's a fair question. So, Skyward works as both our LMS and our SIS, and it also includes our ERP as well. So it's a full suite. And the cost projections we have in our budget includes that entire suite of things. And so it includes our IEP 504 processes. It includes our SIS, includes our LMS piece. And the LMS also works with Engagely, which is the other LMS that we use that's a more innovative project process that we think helps with student engagement on the actual platform. So they are not identical, but they can fall within the same suite of products, and we're including all of them into that.
Any other questions? Mr. Trent, yes, please.
To clarify, are we gonna hear from staff at all after their presentation?
Yeah, we'll still have a discussion though.
Because I have a question, but I don't think it's necessarily.
Yeah. Anything else right now? Okay. Thank you for your presentation. We'll let you sit back down and we'll, if we have some more questions, we'll.
Okay, thank you.
Throw them your way. Oh, Michelle, why don't we go ahead with your hopefully.
Yeah, so Mr. Chairman, in the summary section of rating, obviously the financial and facilities plan is highlighted, it does not meet the standard. And I'm just kind of playing fast and loose with, standards of certificates here. But my original thought was, what potential risk do we put state dollars at if there was a 3-year certificate approved and this school 6 months from now, 1 year from now, 1.5 years from now was not successful, and that is primary role, I think, of the commission as being fiduciary of state dollars. And I'm an advocate of being innovative and trying new things, but certainly wanting to make sure that we're utilizing those dollars effectively. And just curious as to if we gave, permission, or approved a certificate, in this instance, what protection do we have, moving forward to protect those dollars if things were not successful?
It's kind of like a legal question, and answer from a legal perspective.
Please.
So from a legal perspective, you approve the application today for 6 years, 3 years. If you approve it with conditions, you can make those conditions. There is a list here that you could take from, or you could have other conditions. You could have those be a year from now, you could have those be 6 months from now. If those conditions are not met, what you would do is you would start the revocation process. So that's how you would move forward. Then you can then move to revoke the charter. Or staff would probably come to you saying they haven't met the conditions. Revocation may be a process you want to take, and then if you vote to revoke, that would be how you would protect the taxpayer dollars going forward after that.
But they will get their first amount of money, and that's the roll of the dice.
And to clarify, Mr. Chairman, say for example, if we approve today and they threw out a statement of 6 months from now, and 6 months from now, it's just not gonna work. It didn't pan out. Will they have received state dollars up to that point? I'm not clear on the timeline of, when state dollars would actually be dispersed once we approve.
Yeah, timing's a good question.
Sure.
Please.
Yeah, and I've also just, Commissioner, Rachel Burke is here as well, so if I stray, she may be able to correct as well. However, that's correct. The school will not be operational until they have met the conditions. So say you would have the option of waiving any condition if it was not met and allow the school to proceed past that checkpoint. But if the school opened in July 1 of 2026 as is proposed, if they met all conditions and then they were operational as of that date, they would be, be able to accept state funds at that point. So the enrollment would drive the amount of money that they get. Just also all the comments that they've in places and move on the debts.
So I really like that question. So most of these conditions are by June 1st. They're not going to receive any state money before then. So if the conditions expire and are not met, then there's no money on the table.
Disbursement is usually in August.
Yes. Okay, thoughts, commissioners, Director White, any additional?
I'm grateful for the participation of the commission with respect to this application. All these questions have been valid and articulate many of the concerns articulated in the staff's analysis as well. Our primary concerns relate to the financial viability of what has been proposed. Understanding, when the legislature added this new provision around an innovation and novel proposal, the idea was giving a shorter period of time to demonstrate the ability to succeed. And attached to that is this idea that there's a certain amount of risk attached to innovation that the state is willing to tolerate, bolstered against, of course, our and the commission's obligations to be good stewards of state funds. And so shortening that time frame, especially based on the proposal here, where the receipt of state funds would not come after they have met certain conditions to demonstrate. We've proposed primarily financial conditions for your consideration, but we also understand some of the programmatic concerns that have been raised here are certainly others that could be added. And the commission staff can work further with the proposed academy to address some of those concerns if you would want to add some others. I know there were concerns related to classroom size and things of that nature, and it would be entirely appropriate for us to engage around that space.
Thank you.
Chairman Reed.
Yes, please.
I would like to know from the staff, and it may not be available right now, but is the presumption that the other schools using the classical model Hillsdale curriculum have all of those schools met their maximum enrollment capacity and or their wait list as presumed?
Jared, you probably ought to just stay.
I thought we were wrapping up.
I didn't either.
If I may too, before Jared speaks to that, I think there is also an important distinction here that was raised during this presentation about those authorized to use Hillsdale curriculum versus those who are authorized to Hillsdale schools. And right now, the proposed academy has authorization to use the curriculum. They have not been approved yet as a coastal school. I believe that is something that they will pursue, but that's going to be an important distinction as we think about kind of the comparators. So,
yeah. Vice Mayor Barrett, Commissioner. It's not exactly apples to apples, as Director White was just saying. We have 3 operational schools, the Hillsdale schools. There's another Classical Academy, Creepy Classical, and then I don't know, it's Classical Academy. Last year was English through operations. My understanding is that yes, they are all meeting the maximum capacity, and they do have a wait list. Even though wait lists fluctuate, different schools in there, so that competition. We have 3 schools that are not open yet, using the Hillsdale schools as well. So short answer is yes. How that applies to this particular school, using a portion of that curriculum, I can't say that.
Jared.
Yes, it's
Jared, can you help me understand the I mean, the Hillsdale curriculum is free. Anybody can use Hillsdale curriculum. How do you go from that point to becoming an approved Hillsdale school?
I can't speak to that process entirely. In the Hillsdale affiliates schools that we have, they work with Hillsdale to gain that status. From my understanding is the biggest portion of that curriculum is 1776 curriculum as part of their overall.
Is it yours?
Yeah, Chairman Reed, just to address that question from Vice Bear. So Hillsdale has 3 tiers of affiliation. They have those schools that have applied and been approved to use their curriculum. That's the first tier. The second tier is a curriculum school, and the third tier is a member school. We have applied to be a member school, be a curriculum school, and we've already been approved for the first two. As you saw in the email that I provided from Ruth at Hillsdale, they're waiting our charter authorization to approve us to become a curriculum school. We are not choosing to be a member school. That's primarily due to the athletic focus of our school. Those things would be incongruent with being a member school, which is what TBCA, KCA, and the others are. They're member schools. We need more flexibility because we're focused on sports. I hope that answers your question.
Mr. Chairman, under the commission possible actions, 2 of the actions make the motion retroactive to July 1st of this year. Is there rationale for that?
On page 57.
Page 57.
So June 1st of 2026, giving them time, a period of time to, the primary issue and primary point of concern. Oh, you're sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, the effective date. Oh, sorry.
That's
Sorry. I was looking at the wrong. So in order to, it would still be approved well, actually, I don't know why we had it. That might have just been scrivener's error.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it would be effective when approved. So we would need to amend that. Thank you, Commissioner Hedrick.
Okay.
So I'm sorry, we amended those 2
That would be effective.
When approved.
when approved.
Sorry.
July 1, 2026 would be the first day of operation.
Well, no, but the effective date of the approval. Well,
We're looking at.
Right,
conditions.
subject to conditions. So it would be today's date.
Today's date.
Today's date. Yes. Yes.
All right, Mr. Chairman, if we're ready, I'd like to make a motion.
okay, please.
I move to approve the new charter school application for Bavarian Academy for a 3-year term effective 8/14/25 with the following conditions. And our director, Jennifer White, outlined those. I'll read them for the record. Charter holder provides the Idaho Public Charter School Commission evidence that a facility lease agreement is signed or otherwise delivered by March 1st of 2026. Charter holder provides that Idaho Public Charter School evidence of a balance year 1 budget based on enrollment a spring of 2026 lottery by June 1st, 2026. Charter holder provides the Idaho Public Charter School Commission evidence that all memorandum of understanding required to operate the school are signed or otherwise delivered by June 1st, 2026. Charter holder provides the Idaho Public Charter School Commission evidence that all grants and contracts that are part of that year 1 budget are signed or otherwise delivered June 1st, 2026. And the 5th one is charter holder provided the Idaho Public Charter School Commission evidence that sufficient transportation has been secured by June 1, 2026 to the extent the holder intends to provide transportation.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
I will second.
Okay. Okay.
Just verifying the effective date.
Okay.
Yeah.
The term starts today. It's gonna be 2 years. Yep, yes.
Okay, good job.
If that happened.
You got it.
Chairman
Okay,
Reed,
yes, please.
just point of clarification. So with the motion as it is stated on June 1st, 2026, the group would come back to us, having met each one of these 5 conditions. And if one or all of these 5 conditions has not been met at that time, the commission would recommend revocation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chairman, yes, I believe that is, that would be appropriate. I also believe that the condition requiring a facility lease agreement as of March 1st would be another condition that we could attach to a meeting of the condition to ensure that has been fulfilled.
So Chairman and Director, just to clarify for me as well, so really they would come back to us or provide evidence to us on March 1st.
I believe that would be appropriate to have both deadlines met before the commission.
Okay.
Just a comment.
Please.
I seem to remember in the past that the appetite of the commission hasn't been really strong, even though conditions haven't been met to start revocation hearings. Jared, do we have a history of, what is our history in that space?
Vice Chair, Commissioners, in the time that I've been here, just going on muscle memory, that's correct. Generally, when a condition is not met, the commission has chosen to waive those conditions. However, as I'm sure you are aware, there have been discussions about which things would be for themselves and not.
And Chairman, if I may.
Yes.
Given the change to the legislation too, and this being the first time the Charter Commission has had the opportunity to consider an innovative charter, and given the legislative history attached to that, I would say that past history should not guide future conduct. And I believe that the applicant has already articulated intent to fulfill these conditions and proposed their own conditions, including on an even shorter time period than we have provided for here. So I think everyone is entering this conversation eyes wide open around what may happen as of March 1st or June 1st of next year for failure to comply with these expectations.
And if I may, just to really paraphrase a 30-minute discussion with Governor Little 2 weeks ago. We need to do what we say we're gonna do.
Which is innovate.
Well, that means if they don't meet conditions, they should not continue to be approved.
Okay.
Or move forward. That was a frustration.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And I believe, Chairman, also, I would recommend that we keep the recording for today and today's materials. And ensure that those are retained, given kind of the pendency of this continued involvement. So the record is clear on all matters attached to this. So I'll ask our commission staff ensure that we take what action is necessary in order to do that today.
Yeah, so I'm just asking that if we approve this with these conditions have to be met.
Right.
They can't come before us and we give them well, it's okay, go do your best. I think they have to be met.
Mr. Chairman, that was certainly the intent of my motion.
And I appreciate it.
Chairman Reed, one more question. There seemed to be some concern expressed by the commission, the staff and my own concern, and that's with enrollment. Is there, I'm thinking about the addition of a condition surrounding enrollment.
Chairman, Reed, if I may.
Yeah, please.
Yes, the second condition requires the charter holder to produce evidence of a balanced budget based on enrollment. And that's really where we'll see whether the rubber meets the road on what their expectations are as to what they need financially in order to build out the facilities. The practice areas, all of the capacity that they've talked about and their desires for this attached to what actually the enrollment is. And we know how that's important that enrollment is, and you all have articulated that repeatedly in meetings, given some of the notices of financial concern that we've seen the commission have engaged with recently. So that's where we put it, but also happy to support the commission. And if we need to, if you have an alternative motion.
It's a dollar amount instead of the enrollment number. It all equals the same thing.
I think I would just like to see, and maybe it can just happen as a discussion of condition 2 in the future, but more solid evidence of enrollment projections than we saw today.
Okay, other discussion? The motion? We have a motion to approve for 3 years with the 5 conditions noted by Commissioner Hendrick and listed here. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
There's,
Yeah, I had a second.
yes, cool.
Oh, I apologize, I missed it.
Okay, those opposed? Thank you. All right, good luck. We'll see you in March.
Not March.
Okay, we're gonna take a 5-minute break here. Appreciate all that, commissioners.
I'm curious.
Yeah.
I'm curious. It is innovative.
Okay. Next item is the school board's presentation. That's our last item that we have. No, I.
I love my job.
I can let me go by that one, yeah. Okay, approval for a new director. Do we have a motion?
To say.
Well, I do know that just for the public, we had an amazing group of candidates. When I come down to the final two, they were extremely qualified and we appreciate everything.
We
It's a
received
good
pub-
search. Yeah.
Yes, and we received public comment in support of both candidates. So very grateful for the involvement and interest of our various stakeholders and their effort to provide us with feedback as well.
Okay.
Chairman,
Yes,
there was a question about what the motion should contain. Do you want me to?
would you please
So if I-
help us? Yeah.
So the motion can be, we appoint X person to be the next executive director. You can include an effective date if you want. You don't have to. The motion could then also include, if you want to, delegate authority to the interim director and the chair to negotiate, salary and benefits. And a start date. Hey, that's a better way to start date. So
Yeah, and the HR, they like to they got a thing about a start date.
Yep, so we'll have to.
So I would just then have the motion delegate that to whoever you want that delegated to. Which could be the current executive, the interim executive director and the chair, or one or the other, whatever you wanna do.
Happy to do that.
Okay. Please.
Read, if you're ready, I'll make a motion.
Please.
I would like to make a motion to appoint Rachel Burke as the next executive director for the Idaho Public Charter School Commission. And delegate the authority to the chair and the interim director to determine start date and salary. And salary and benefits in conjunction with the HR department.
Okay. Okay, here.
Great.
Is there a second? Okay, we have a second. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Please.
just want to notify the commission that I'll be recusing myself from the vote for
Okay.
potential conflict.
Right, thank you. Very noted. Okay, anything else? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No way. Congratulations. And Lisa, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
very
so much. We appreciate you. Okay. Idaho School Boards Association, Rachel, I think you gotta come up here. But we, there another kid.
I have to head out anyway.
Okay. All right. So- You had that finance meeting. Okay, so we're gonna excuse Karen and also the interim director. Director White has about 10,000 things to do today, so
I apologize to the School Board Association. I am very passionate about what you all do, and I think you've seen me in person before. But I'm sorry, I have to leave to go to other things.
yes, a little bit of a financial meeting. So thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just sitting here.
Sorry.
Not paying attention very well.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Idaho School Boards Association. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
We really appreciate it. We appreciate Mr. Hendrick helping put this together. It's an important opportunity. Okay, so if you just introduce yourselves and please go ahead.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. My name is Misty Swanson. I'm the Executive Director of the Idaho School Boards Association. And joining me today is ISBA's Chief Learning Officer, Dr. Phil Gore. So we really appreciate this opportunity to be with you all today. We just wanted to cover a few reminders of what our association does for charter schools across the state. And then once I'm done covering a few of those topics, Dr. Gore will share with you some little deep dive, some really cool things that we have happening with charter schools in particular. So some of the services that we provide to charters across the state involve model policy writing. We provide board administrator board training. So we come in and you name the topic, we have some sort of expert that can come in and help with that and facilitate that. One of the most used opportunities that our association provides is literally 24/7, call me, email me, him, our deputy director, Quinn Perry, and board members and administrators use it. We get the phone calls. My husband's like, who is it? 9 o'clock calling you tonight. And it's like, well, they're in a board meeting, they need help. So that is one of the big things that we do offer to charter schools is that availability to contact us. They contact us when they have a variety of questions. They need assistance on open meeting law. They have a situation where they need advice or have you heard of someone else that does this? And we say, we do. Here's a board chair or administrator you can go call and hear how they handle it. They handle it really well. We also have started a monthly charter meetup. So that's for school board members as well as administrators. We all Zoom in, people from around the state Zoom in, and they can talk about anything charter specific. So we obviously try to keep anything employment or student related. We don't talk about those things, but we talk about anything else that might help them in their governance and to help them in their roles to be the best that they can be and represent their students as good as possible. In fact, I was visiting with the board chair in the back of the room and he's like, I attend these every month. So we really enjoy those. We also offer chairman meetups. So that would be for a board chairman of both traditional school districts and charter schools. So he also mentioned he attends those. So that is really a great opportunity for board chairs to speak with each other and to learn how do you handle the situation, how do you run your meetings, or there are situations, as you know, Mr. Chairman, that are specific for board chairs. So those are just a few of the services that charters mostly use, but we have a whole host of other benefits and services. As I mentioned to you last fall when I visited with you all and presented, I continue to speak nationally about Idaho's movement with charter schools and the immense success that we have. Sadly, we are still the only state school board association that welcomes charter schools as full members. I'm proud of that. That's something I love to talk about. I really get after my colleagues in other states that like, come on, you guys, like you can get there with us. We see how great our charter schools are and the benefits that they provide to their communities, their students and parents across the state. So I am continuing that work. I'm trying to get other states to get there. They asked me to come in and speak to their board of directors to see is there a path forward for them to do what our legislature and this commission did so many years ago. Hopefully soon we'll have some good news on that, but I'm still working on it. So we do want to continue and grow our work for charter schools and with charter schools. So if there's opportunities that you see arise, if there's needs that you see arise, please let me know. I would love to work with your new director to find out what can we be doing differently and better and new to help charter schools across the state as they are an immense importance to us. So as I mentioned when I was here in the fall, we do some pretty unique board development at ISBA. And so I asked Dr. Gore to join me to talk about a new training that we've provided, our new development we've provided called GEM State Governance. So if it's okay, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to turn it over to him.
Please, yeah.
Misty, do you want to pass out a flyer?
Yeah. I'll give it after you to pass out.
Yeah, you can just, you know, do Mr.
Do you need one or are you good?
Chairman Reed, commissioners, and new executive director. It's a privilege to be with you today and talk about some of our work. I know I am between you and lunch, so I'll be brief, and we appreciate any opportunity to entertain questions, even while you date in some of our workshops. We just concluded a pilot of Gem State governance series last evening at Blackfoot Charter. I'm very impressed with their board and administrator and the work they've done over the last year and a half to remediate where they were with student achievement. For approximately 35 years, researchers have been developing a growing body of evidence to suggest that it matters who's served on a school board, what they think, what they do, and how they do it. And we think of this content that I've been involved with for the last 25 years. We think of this content as really keying in on three specific areas. One is, first of all, the belief and high expectations for student learning. If board members don't have high expectations and a belief that all or nearly every student can be at or above grade level, there tends to be a diminishing effect throughout the system with that belief. You can see the effect that is represented by the school. Nobody credible in this work will say that if the school board does 1, 2, and 3, student achievement will improve. What we can say is there are a handful of things that if boards have the right dispositions, the knowledge, the skills, and then take the actions, that tends to be representative of school boards that are governing systems that are improving and achieving. So there is this difference. In the 1990s, we began to see this emerging research that demonstrated all the harm that boards can do. One of the primary ways they cause harm is participating in or growing and encouraging drama. If there's drama in the boardroom, there's often chaos throughout the system and in the classroom. If there's conflict between the chief administrator and the board, there's often conflict throughout the system, uncertainty. So one of the roles of a dutiful school board is to help stabilize the system, to help buffer the staff, administration from unnecessary conflict, turmoil, uncertainty. In the body of knowledge and skills, we know that boards and systems that are improving in achievement, they have a deeper understanding of what it takes to improve teaching and learning. They're not micromanaging teaching and learning, but they understand what is necessary. So that when the administration comes to them and makes a recommendation, whether it's for instructional coaches, particular curriculum, a change in the schedule, they know the questions to ask about how will this affect our students. And that knowledge and skills ultimately has to translate into actions. Boards and systems that are improving in achievement govern differently than boards that are not. They're more focused. They're aligning their work with the work of teachers, staff, administrators. They're building community support. There are, again, this handful of actions. They're evaluating their chief administrator on clear and expected expectations for improving student learning. It's not willy-nilly or the stylistic things of the administrator near so much as it is, are we improving in achievement or are we not improving in achievement? When those goals are clear, when the vision is clear and specific, systems are likely to be improving in achievement. I had the privilege 10 years ago to co-edit a book that was published by Harvard Education Press. It's entitled Improving School Board Effectiveness, a Balanced Governance Approach. And as we pulled together the research at that time that supports the things I'm suggesting to you, it became obvious to us in the body of evidence that when the structures and systems are in place, whether it's a district or a charter, but in any school system, when the structures and systems are in place to improve achievement, achievement tends to be improving. Again, lots of research that's been growing to help support that. So we have an overview of what we call Gem State governance. We've started with 10 sessions, condensed it to 8 sessions, tried to figure out how to massage it into 6 and get it down to 5 to make it more accessible
and more within what the state allots for school boards in Idaho to be able to spread this over 2 years and get the board development that is necessary for the board to lead and govern in a way that can support improved student outcomes. 5 big governance questions at the heart of this. We would love at ISBA for every school board member of the state to be articulate in these 5 questions. Have these conversations with neighbors across the fence, with family and friends at Thanksgiving dinner, wherever they find themselves, being able to answer the question, how are our students doing? We find that when boards are knowledgeable about the status of student achievement and student performance, they're more likely to be governing in a way that supports that improvement. We want them to be articulate in how they know. So what evidence do we have? We feel good, we saw a good report, we had a student come to our meeting and they seemed articulate, so we must be doing well. What is the evidence, quantitative and qualitative, that they can suggest that this is how we know how our students are doing? And perhaps counter some of the false narrative that seems to be rampant facing public education today. We want them to know and be able to articulate, this is what our charter is doing this year to improve how our students are doing. These are the initiatives to improve learning and instruction that we are expecting to have results. We want them to be able to express, this is what success will look like. We've got a vision. This is our hope. This is our intent with this. And ultimately, a dutiful board has a responsibility to be monitoring progress throughout the year. So what will be the measures of progress? Those conversations with a board are rich, they're gratifying. They lift us up out of the petty and the who said what and what happened in Mrs. So-and-so's classroom last week, like lifts us out of those operational and managerial interests to a higher governance and oversight level. We find that if we can elevate the conversation that the board is having among themselves and together with their administration, they're more likely to be supporting improved outcomes for students in their system. So we've outlined this series in these 5 sessions, focusing in on a vision. Sometimes having that session with boards, they're not ready for it yet. They haven't really dug into their vision for improving systemic achievement. They want to talk about what's happening in the classroom or what's happening with their child and their teacher and their experiences that they observed as a volunteer last week. And so we have to kind of have that conversation progressively. It's not a one and done. In fact, one charter school we worked with this last year, it was really about the 5th session before we got there. But when we got there, we really got there. They have a powerful new mission and vision statement that'll be written into their revised charter. And we're pretty excited about that. We have a session that I've been doing and colleagues and I put together about 10 years ago in different states and with different boards, but it's an opportunity, kind of a gallery walk for team teaching and a shared learning experience between teacher leaders, administrators, and board members. We talk about 7 or 8 different levers for improvement of instruction and outcomes. And we pick with the administration 3 areas to key in on. There are things like professional development, communication throughout the system, how their systems are aligned for monitoring data, things that we know, again, from the body of literature that are associated with genuine improvement in learning outcomes. And we have the teacher leaders, administrators, and board members in small groups. They talk about what does that look like here for our charter school. They talk about questions that board members may have about, from their experience, why is professional development important? Why is communication important? Why is shared leadership important? They sort of sometimes delve into specific examples from their life experience and sometimes out of their own curiosities. Well, why would that be? Ultimately, in those poster conversations that happen with these mixed groups, they're almost magical. I probably can't overstate how powerful those opportunities are, because people are having ahas and discoveries, often for the very first time. I had no idea we do that here. I had never thought about how important that would be. The third column on those posters is, how will we know if this is successful? And so board members get there, and they begin to shift again from the minutia of administrative and operational details and think in terms of what would positive outcomes look like, and what would the evidence of those positive outcomes look like. And at the end of those 2.5 to 3 hours, the whole room has a new appreciation for each other and the roles that different people play in the system. As we think about the third session, this is really all about data and making data-informed decisions. So we delve into, what is the data the board needs to see? Not teacher level data, not administrative level data, but system, citizen, governance, and oversight data. What does that data look like? What are the 3 questions out of these 64 things on the slide that we should be asking? What should we be paying attention to? So there's conversations, obviously varies by system, their capacity to develop data dashboards. But again, to sharpen and refine that conversation among the administration and board of, here are the key levers, here are the things we're focusing on. We tell boards, if they're focused on improving achievement in all areas for every student in the system, they're not focused on anything. So we want them to key in on those essential levers, that reading with comprehension by the end of 3rd grade. We want them to think together with their administrators about, what are these things, if we focus there, are most likely to elevate the entire system. We talk about systems thinking, structures, sustainability. Ultimately, boards have the challenge with turnover, short tenures of board members as well as administrators to produce policies, create policies and practices, board operating protocols that sustain and that survive individuals, right? That are there to help support the ongoing growth and improvement of their school system. I won't cover each of these, but happy to leave a copy of the PowerPoint back here with your staff, and someone could send it to you for those that are interested. It's a little more explanation on these slides that I've already covered in the last few minutes of what the experiences are. I wanted to give sort of a snapshot of what school board members experience when they engage in this type of professional development. And I've pretty much covered these. I think it's important just to back up 4 questions when we talk about data with boards. Again, what data does the board need to see? There's a why in there. We want to get to a why. And why do we need to see this data? The last thing any board needs, your board or your commission or any board, is another for information only report. I'm sorry, stuff it in the packet and thank you for your report. Like, if we're not going to talk about it, deliberate, discuss, decide anything, I understand board meetings are public and sometimes there's a need to have a positive report out required by law. But in general, every board in the country of all kind wastes a lot of time on for information only items. There needs to be data that the board is actually going to discuss. So what are the questions, if any, they might have based on that data? What is the actual representation of the data? Is a pie chart, a line graph, a bar chart? What will give them the best understanding of what's happening with their students and the school system? And ultimately, if there are any decisions for the board, let's have the conversation proactively. What are the types of decisions we might make based on this data? So that the board doesn't sort of fumble around and succumb to micromanagement or even just a micro focus. That's an important piece. And I'm going to wrap up right there, just in case you have questions for me or topics, suggestions. I would love to hear from you.
Appreciate it. Questions, Commissioner?
In the realm of finance, how much should the board start becoming involved in the question of financial management in the district? Because my experience is most boards they get the annual report, we met, we have 800,000 left. Because there's a danger also with boards interfering.
Yes.
So just kind of where do you guys go with that?
You know, that's been a more recent pressing concern, right now. And as we talk with financial experts, school finance experts across the state and work on curriculum, sort of top 7 questions to ask, top 10 questions to ask. Governance is about asking questions, and good governance is about asking good questions. So we want them to be informed enough to provide informed oversight. What is our ending fund balance? Is it trending up? Is it trending down? What is our projected enrollment and projected revenue for this next year? Are our gaps widening, sort of those jaws of the alligator on the graph, or are the gaps narrow? Being able to ask questions specifically about expected revenue, expected expenses, and having the conversation early enough in the budget cycle so that it can be more of the board engagement, involvement, and setting parameters. Here's what we would hope in the budget assumptions, expectations for this next year. We're also very recognizing that boards need to be able today to have the capacity to communicate with their public. This is where we had intended to be with our budget, and due to these changes in revenue streams, here are some potential challenges that we're experiencing. And to be transparent and again, proactive in advance, talking with the community that this is sort of plan A, and we may need a plan B or a plan C. Seems to be really important right now.
And a follow on with that, does the board have a role in negotiations with the union? Or should the board back off and leave that in the hands of the administration?
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, it's a great question. It really is. It's a question I've had for many years. I've been doing school board development for 18 years now, across the country, coast to coast. And that varies greatly. And I'll generally not delve into trying to tell a board that they're doing it wrong or a system that they're doing it wrong when they have an established culture. I think it would be helpful if we had some guidance from something specific official that said, here's best practices recommendation, and then celebrate local control. Local LEAs are going to do what local LEAs do. I have personal opinions on the topic, but I don't even know that they're all that relevant.
I think they can be relevant because if the boards are listening to the advice that is being provided, there are actions out there that can really complicate things. And there's also actions out there that can also make things a lot smoother. And so there's less contention in negotiations. And I'm really kind of thinking on the conversations between a superintendent or a charter school head. They really don't have the same union issues at all, but that conversation would, because I can give you my thoughts on this, and it's a little difficult for the board to step in and still have to in the end approve a contract for a district. At the same time, there is nothing worse than agreements being reached and the board says this is wrong, we're not gonna do this. The damage that can come out of that can be terrible. So I am curious of where you guys go in your advice of dealing with negotiations.
I'm happy to respond to that. When asked by a board member for my opinion is that board members should not be involved in negotiations. They hire professionals to do that work. And I do step back from saying you're wrong. Because there are traditions out there that we try to meet boards where they're at, what they're ready for when it comes to improvement.
I have an opinion.
Other questions?
Chairman,
Please.
tell me about the participation of the charter administrators in your meetups. How long have you been doing it? What kind of participation do you have?
Chairman Reed, commissioners, we have had from 5 to 20 charter directors, board members. If those have not been opened up for administrators, we wouldn't tell someone they couldn't attend, but it's really a conversation among board members of experiences, challenges. We've been recently bringing in other experts kind of one at a time to have a conversation that charter board members have asked for. And so in our last meetup, Rachel Burke joined the group, had some conversations back and forth about resources available. And in the next meetup next week, Chris Jorgensen is joining the group specifically to talk about policy governance, very prescriptive, specific form of governance that at least one charter board practices here in the state. And obviously he may have other questions, conversations that go with that. So when we just started doing that, was it April, May, June? Yeah.
I just was gonna say thank you for doing that. We've talked about something like that as a commission, and that's really beneficial and something that's been needed. So, thank you.
And Mr. Chairman, if I might, our annual convention is coming up in November. We'll be in Coeur d'Alene. And we always have a whole host of workshops specific for charter schools. So there's generally a track of some sort that allows them, if they want to go down the track of all of their workshops or charter school related, they can. And or they can weave in and out of other topics. Sometimes we have education law workshops, or we have I'm trying to think of the other ones we have for this year, but they weave in and out of various topics. So our goal is throughout the year to give every charter board member the opportunity to participate in some sort of learning, whether it's online in our charter meetups, having us come into their schools, attending a couple different conferences we host each year. We try to provide as many opportunities that they can. Our organization is also a authorized provider for school board training by the State Board of Education. So many components of the training is reimbursed to them up to $6,600. If you're not familiar with that, I can go into that another time, but so that's something that we try to get them to also utilize is the funds are there, opportunities are there. Like, how can we help you?
If we have one or two, I believe two early birds at our convention this year specifically for charter board members. And then I believe we have enough sessions for a full strand. And then there are sessions presented by charter people that may or may not be part of that strand because they're more inclusive, if you will. And then there's a whole strand for brand new board members, as well as early bird session all day for all morning for brand new board members. We would encourage brand new board members, whether they were district or charter, to attend that new board track.
Yes.
Just anecdotally, and living in the world and swimming in the water, such positive comments from the charter board world about the welcoming and how they've been how the school board has been more inclusive of charter. So thank you for that. Thank you.
I've been very impressed with the work in Palouse Prairie Charter School. I know there's challenges with enrollment and so forth, but what the academic work they're doing there is very impressive.
Anything else? Okay, thanks so much. We really appreciate you coming, your time. Okay. That's the end of our meeting. Meeting adjourned.
It's like ISBA reunion.